High noon on a Thursday, on a week that has gone by fairly quickly, at least in my opinion. I hope it's the same for you folks as well. My name is Jake Query, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison, the other two voices you hear on this program. We call it Query and Company here on The Fan, and it's really a pretty simple layout. That is that Eddie Garrison, who is the guy that controls, sometimes begrudgingly we allow him to do it, but he controls the microphones, the audio, the songs that you hear, the phone calls. Eddie, your title is that you are the CEO of Query and Company, correct?
That is correct, Jake.
You're the one making all the decisions, pulling all the strings. Now,
Yes,
Jimmy
good,
Cook
sir.
is the president of the company. We have yet to determine necessarily what president and CEO, the overall, where the responsibility line is drawn in the sand. But Jimmy is here as well. Jimmy, you are wearing, it looks like a golf shirt today. Are you going to hit the links later?
No, I like summertime polos, Jake.
It is the best, isn't it?
Yes.
Summertime is just the absolute best. And my name is Jake Query. Those of you out in the audience, we consider you to be the company. We're thrilled that you are here. We have a number of different ambassadors from different walks that are all part of the company. Somehow I just had the epiphany one day that if you listen to the show and you happen to run into me, I would like for you to say, I'm part of the company.
It's because we
are
were
thrilled with
desperate,
that.
Jake. We were desperate for employees.
That is the entire story of my existence, Eddie Garrison, is desperation. There's no question about it. We've got a big show lined up today. The Colts are on the practice field. They are underway. As a matter of fact, the first practice concluded about an hour ago. And, Eddie, you went out to Grand Park this morning, correct?
I did go out there for a little bit. Yep.
You went to skulk around, and then it's my understanding, and you tell me if you think this is going to come to fruition. I know that you were attempting to line up for somebody to call us and join the program, join the company, if you will, here, coming up in just about 30 minutes or so when they get done with meetings. Have you gotten any clear indication as to who it might be that may be calling us coming up?
He broke through last year. It's a contract year for him. Dayo Odeyingbo will be joining us.
Nice. Awesome.
Okay, that's good. And that's at what time?
12:30.
12:30 today. Yeah, we look forward to that. That'll be good. Also today, by the way, we'll talk to Joel A. Erickson about the Colts coming up at 2 o'clock. And we got into it yesterday. Yesterday was report day. And the good news, Jimmy, I know that it's kind of a broken record here, but I will say it again. And if you're worried about me repeating myself, then the good news is we're going to have somebody else to, players always talk about during training camps. You go like 3 weeks, and then they get into the open scrimmage, and you ask them, you say, so what do you think about, getting ready to scrimmage against the Rams or the Bengals or the Browns or whoever it might be? And they all say the same thing. What's the patented line, Jimmy, when a team has been going through 3 weeks and then they're going to go play a preseason game? What's the one thing that they always say?
You always set me up for this, and I always let you down.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get 1% better, Jake.
They always say, I'm just excited to go out there and hit somebody else, right?
Yes, that is indeed.
We've been working against our own guys. We just go out there. We're excited to go out and hit somebody else. So when we are talking about the narrative that I'm about to say, which sounded the same as yesterday, the good news is you're going to hear it from somebody else coming up in about 25 minutes because that's when Dayo is going to join us, mercifully bail us out. But I go back to the good theme for the Colts right now is the fact that twofold. The first being there is not an overwhelming jump out. If you have a big storyline in your team's training camp, it means one of two things. It means either you are coming off a season where you won a championship or got within sniffing distance, or it means that your team currently is a dumpster fire. Right?
There's no in between. No, there's not.
There's no in between. Who are the big storylines? Right? If you had to say, if you are sitting right now in the offices of a national publication, and you're saying, okay, we got to pick 4 teams to cover the closest here in terms of their training camp in the NFL. Who are the 4 you're picking?
Chicago.
Okay, dumpster fire.
Probably just because it carries itself, the Jets, because of Aaron Rodgers.
Dumpster fire.
I would throw, even though some of the dust has settled there, I would throw the Bengals in there to some extent because of T. Higgins.
Sniffed it.
Yeah.
America's team, Jake.
Oh, yeah, have to.
You have to get America's team in there.
Okay, and because people think they're going to sniff it, and once again, they're always a dumpster fire.
Yep.
Right?
The 49ers as well. They've got some contract
sniffed
problems.
They do, a ton of them.
So my point being, and I'm being a little extreme in that, but at this point in the year, if you're making headlines in August, it's usually because and the Bears aren't a dumpster fire, don't get me wrong, but they have been, right? There are huge question marks. If you are making headlines in July and August, it's because you either have malcontents or huge question marks or pressure. One of those three things: pressure, question marks, malcontents. Those are the things that sell and churn ink in July and August. The Colts, on the other hand, as of right now, on July 25th, happy birthday, Walter Payton. Happy birthday, Sam Rumsa. Happy birthday, Anju Gupta-Taylor. That's everybody I know whose birthday is July 25th. But as of right now on July 25th, there's not a lot of move the needle big-time talking points, and that is a good thing. The biggest talking point of the Colts is that, Ryan Kelly apparently was interested in an extension, and the Colts at this point were not. Talking point, right?
Weird talking point.
Anthony Richardson is healthy, and there's no restriction on him. Talking point. Good talking point, right?
Yes.
We're going to talk to Dayo, and we'll ask about the fact that, A, he's in a contract year, but B, I don't know. I mean, does he like the fact now that all of a sudden it's a crowded room? I mean, he and Kwity Paye were the pass rush, and then, and obviously DeForest Buckner, I guess, too, but when they were drafted, they were the future of the pass rush. Now all of a sudden that room it's crowded house. Is that good or bad? Like it or don't like it?
Yeah, I mean, and the most notable gem to that is Leatu Latu, because he plays a similar position in theory. I mean, I know you could line him up on either side of the field, but he is in a similar position group, and it's a group that is going to be relied upon extremely heavily this season, Jake, because we can talk all we want, and I've stressed it how I have concerns about the secondary. I'm curious if it really was just inexperience last year and they're going to have a level of growth. But even if they have that level of growth, what the Colts want to do schematically is so heavily invested in getting after the quarterback, especially up front, that no one's going to be able to hide. Not that Dayo would, but he's not going to be able to hide in a contract year. There are too many good pieces either behind him or in front of him where they can easily evaluate in a contract year, hey, thank you for coming out, but we're ready to go in a different direction.
So, Eddie, you said you did go to Grand Park this morning, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of fans there.
I'm sure. Day one, right?
Yeah, it was pretty much full from what I could see.
And
I didn't block any of their views, by the way. Nobody asked me to sit down or anything like that.
That's good. It's a win.
Now, speaking of views and watching football, so you did see a little bit of practice, right? I mean, obviously, I know you had to get in here, but you saw a little bit of practice, right?
Yeah, I did. I saw them going through their positional drills.
What pace are we talking? Surely they're not getting out and getting right to it, right?
I would say they looked about 75%, I would say.
Beautiful day for it.
Yeah.
I bought last night, speaking of football, I bought tickets to an upcoming football competition. I teased briefly what it would be yesterday, but it falls into a topic that we talked about yesterday in a conversation point. Would you like to guess?
Well, I know what it is because I actually listened this time, so it's a win for me.
It is what, Jimmy?
You bought tickets for Purdue, Oregon.
I did, baby.
The duck sold you, right?
Mostly because I'm looking forward to seeing the huge inflatable duck on the Wabash just outside in Lafayette, right?
Serious question. If you're Oregon, and I realize the weather might not cooperate, even if it's on land, do you bring the duck everywhere you go in the Big Ten? Like, you're obviously going to have the physical mascot of the duck, but the inflatable duck, is that a world tour or is that a one-off and you probably don't see it again?
I mean, it feels like probably a special occasion one-off, right?
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool.
It was awesome.
Now, if you are, of the four newcomers in the Big Ten, and Big Ten Media Days, I believe, is wrapping up today, correct?
Yes. Kurt Cignetti will be talking today at some point.
I'm very excited for that because to this stage, he has been as confident, maybe to a fault, as you could expect a first-year coach to be. Is it that same level of energy and tenacity in his official Welcome to Big Ten Media Day press conference?
Listen, and I can't remember. I think it's a clothing brand or maybe an energy drink brand. I can't remember which. But Kurt Cignetti's press conferences should absolutely be sponsored by No Fear, right? Like, there's no confidence lacking.
He's got a very, very, very low bar to beat.
He does that. That is correct. I mean, the but he's kind of created expectation.
Yes, he has. With the way he has addressed what this team is, what they can be. And look, we talked about it yesterday with Zach Osterman. IU is at a point where, Jake, like, even if they overachieve this year, boy, would the fans welcome that. Like, the idea of ending that 30-plus year drought of a bowl game, like, if that's not going to be, but if that was the top of the mountain of what Curt Cignetti could do for you, if he does it in year one, that's an incredible accomplishment. You've highlighted as much as anybody one of the losingest programs in all of college football. For him to turn that around in 1 year, then make a bowl and win it.
They can't screw that up. Indiana's the losing. They've lost more games than anybody in college football history. They can't screw that up. They got to hold on to that. Thank you.
That's branding that you need to keep cornered.
You got to stick with what makes you different, right? Which speaking of that, random brain dropping. Do we have a sound effect for that?
Do not.
It's in the works.
How's that?
I thought about a water drop. I also thought of the like an explosion.
It probably should be more of that. Do you know that if you took right now, and I saw this yesterday on social media, so I'm stealing it.
Okay.
As of coming off of the All-Star break, the first half of the baseball season, if you divided Major League Baseball franchises east to west, okay, like the eastern point and the western point,
sure,
the 15 furthest east, how many teams are there? Is it 32 or 30 in Major League Baseball?
30.
So the 15 teams, if you drew a line, these are the 15 furthest eastern teams, these are the furthest 15 western teams. They had the exact same record cumulatively.
Really?
Yes. Maybe that, like, statistically has to happen that way. I don't know, but I thought it was fascinating.
That is fascinating.
What I was going to say, with Oregon joining the Big Ten, and again, Dayo is going to join us coming up about 20 minutes from now. We expect him to call. If you look at the Big Ten this year, with Big Ten Media Day taking place right now, I look at an Oregon, and this is one of the things I think is just going to be a challenge to an extent. Their pre-Big Ten schedule: Idaho, Boise State, Oregon State. Okay. Basically all regionalized. Then they go with UCLA. Okay. I mean, they're used to that. But then got to travel, or actually these games are home, but still, Michigan State and Ohio State. Then they have to go to West Lafayette. They have to go to Ann Arbor. They have to go to Madison. I mean, the travel alone eventually would be difficult, would it not? I know these are young players, but that's a long way to go back and forth on the regular.
I genuinely don't know the answer to this, because that's what normal thought would say, Jake, would be that the travel eventually is going to eat at you. That's why they talk about it all the time during the NCAA tournament with matchups of even one-off games of, hey, look at how far this team traveled. Look at how far this team traveled. You see it in the NBA as well and in the NFL. But I would want to talk to somebody, and this will be something I guess I do on my own time, that studies that kind of sleep health for athletes. How much has technology advanced to the point where it's not as big a deal anymore? Like, not saying it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fair.
But is it because of how advanced the data is and the ability to track that and track sleep habits and track rest and days off?
Well, it's also, they're not exactly flying, Spirit Airlines in the back, right?
Right.
I mean, I would imagine all these teams are taking either at the very least chartered flights, if not private planes.
People, though, that were against this expansion, some of the reasons they brought up are exactly what you outlined, is at what point do West Coast or our Midwest or East Coast teams in the conference look by week 13 and say, man, this is quite a bit of travel.
That's fair. I marvel when I think about it if you think about the old days of Notre Dame, like Knute Rockne's Notre Dame teams, and you read about it and you see the old newsreels, and the Irish with the Four Horsemen traveled to Stanford, and you're like, wait a minute, how did they get to Stanford?
By horse.
What did they leave? Well, I know, but I mean, like, what did they leave on Tuesday and train it out there? It's crazy, right?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
But nonetheless, I digress.
You think Amtrak was the way?
Probably.
The official train of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Make sure they get a sleeper car, right?
Amtrak, where you go, we go.
But back to the Colts camp from today and the storylines thereof. I do think, Jimmy, that I know that they can say that Anthony Richardson has no limitation. I guess the question is, anything can come with no limitation depending on how much you are leaving a governor on it. And so by that, what I mean is they may not have restriction or limitation on him in terms of the days that he's going, but how much are they truly unleashing him, and when do we start to see it? Maybe it's right away. Or do they nurse it slowly along before they are truly unleashing what they want to see him do in practice?
Eddie, you said what, 9 months?
Yesterday was Wednesday, right?
That is correct.
Yesterday was the 9-month mark since his procedure.
So in theory, with whether it was Bill Polian or whoever we've talked to about shoulders in particular,
Typically a 6 to 8 month window.
he should be in the green zone now, right? He should be in an area
Well, I
where
get that. And I'm not denying
No,
that.
I
I'm
just
saying,
mean-
so do they take advantage of that right away,
correct.
or do they say, let's slowly ease into this?
Yeah, I apologize if that's how that came off. I wasn't trying to undercut that point. I was just outlining the fact that in theory now, it should be training wheels off, go get him, Tiger. Like that should be the zone that we're in if we're mapping out what we know about shoulders. I'm with you, though, Jake. The human nature of it would be, even if he's not ailed by whatever, to give him days off scheduled where you can, just to make sure you're not overdoing it. Because at the end of the day, and I don't want to undercut either training camp, because I love training camp. I love Grand Park. It's basically right in my backyard. Like I enjoy everything that happens out there and how ingrained in the Colts community that has become. But nothing matters what he does in training camp other than staying healthy. We need to get to week 1 and then go from there. So if there were planned days off for him, I wouldn't blame them, because
Right.
it's human nature to want to coddle a bit in areas that don't matter for the actual push to the playoffs they want to have.
How much do you think the defense, maybe I could ask Dayo this, how much do you think the defense missed a year ago going against Anthony Richardson in practice each week? And by that I mean, and I think Gardner Minshew did a really good job and is a really good player. But Minshew isn't necessarily the tuck it and go player that Anthony Richardson is. And while I realize in practice the practices are not designed for DeForest Buckner and Kwity Paye to get after the quarterback and knock him out cold in the middle. I mean, obviously. But just in terms of watching the movement and having to always be aware, how much did it hurt them, or how much could they have benefited a year ago from a year's worth of practice going against the athleticism and the spontaneity of Anthony Richardson?
I've always been of the belief, if you have a otherworldly quarterback in any capacity, be it athleticism, be it throw power, whatever, if you have them out there and you're going against them on a daily practice basis, you are inherently going to get better because you're going up against the best the league has to offer. Maybe not, to your point, guys in the trenches, because you can win those matchups regardless of who the quarterback is. But the secondary and your linebacking core.
How many corners in San Francisco were improved and simply learned because they were having to go against the route running of Jerry Rice every single day?
Sure.
Or how many...
In today's NFL, going against Joe Burrow, how much does that help
Totally.
your secondary? I would think massively, because it's one of the best in the game.
And I've always been curious of this, and this is something that we could ask, and I think I've asked players this in the past, but I would think if I was an NFL coach, we're going to have Shane Steichen on when we're out there at camp, and this is probably something I'm going to ask him. If I was an NFL coach, I would have minimum 1 or 2 one-hour sessions a week of film where my corners and receivers are in the room together and where they're watching themselves going against each other and talking to the other. I would want to know, if I'm Michael Pittman and there's a play where I go down and I'm breaking and then all of a sudden Juju Brents is right there, I would want to know from Juju Brents, did I do something that tipped you off as to where I was going there? Well, yeah, I mean, your eyes, and so I knew that's where you were going. Okay, thank you, because now I know that.
Right.
And likewise, right? And I don't know. I mean, they're teammates, so you would think that would be something that they would covet. But I have no idea how much that open line of communication of other sides of the ball, because a lot of times they'll tell you, NFL players will tell you, and I think people are surprised by it, to find out that, Peyton Manning and Robert Mathis weren't like sitting in the same meetings all the time. They were, a lot of times, it was like when you're in high school and you have friends in high school and you're like, yeah, I never saw that guy all day. And you're like, what are you talking about? You went to high school with him. Well, I know, but he was in a different block.
Yeah.
So when I was in my math classes, he was in English on the other side of the building and vice versa. I do think that takes place, but I would love to know how much interactive conversation, dialogue, and schematic game planning there is amongst opposite sides of the ball.
And it works both ways. For Anthony Richardson, you would want the very best out there that you can have from a secondary standpoint, because he's going to be going up against the very best the league has to offer. The goal of practices, or at least the goal that I've always had from a player development standpoint, is you want everybody to be challenged in some capacity. Because if you have scrubs out there at a position group and your quarterback's just able to pick on them all the time, no one's getting better for that.
Right.
But if you have opportunities for challenges or growth because of a talent gap, that's helpful in the overall run, be it defense to offense or offense to defense.
Eddie, do you think when Joe Flacco goes into the quarterback room, he says, yeah, back in my day in Baltimore.
Do you think he walks in there with a cane?
How is Joe Flacco 40?
Oh, yeah.
Is he?
I think he's 42.
I think he's 41.
I mean, he's a kid to me, but
We're both wrong.
39.
he's not 40 yet. When's he turn 40?
Next January.
Oh, man. So here's the question. Will Joe Flacco be a Colt when he turns 40?
Hello with this. Yes, because they're going to be in the playoffs.
Eddie?
I hope.
Look at my math's right on that. I'm banking on a wild card round appearance.
Did you say they just said he's going to call in next?
Yes, sir.
All right, when we come back, we are anticipating, because Eddie went out to Colts camp today and worked his Rolodex magic and lined up for Dayo. Now, see, again, we need to get him to do the Osterman, right?
You tagging me in there?
Wouldn't it be the DePirac, not the Osterman?
Yes, since DePirac was first, it would have to be his honor, right?
Yes.
Odeyingbo.
It is Odeyingbo. I know that. Odeyingbo. Is it Odeyingbo or Odeyingbo?
Odeyingbo.
Dayo Odeyingbo. Anyway, Dayo, as we know him and love him, is going to join us on the other side. It is Query & Company here on a Thursday. Dayo's next. obviously right off of the draft when you were a rookie 4 years ago, but now as a veteran, seeing a first-round pick, a rookie that's coming in along the same unit as yourself, how are things different? What is the mindset and the approach for you now entering year number 4?
I mean, prior to this, the approach was kind of getting comfortable, getting adjusted to, just being in camp, being in the NFL. But now it's about dominating, I feel like I've been able to get comfortable and grow throughout my years here. But now I'm looking to take that next step and really become a dominant force in this league.
When you look at your, obviously just pass rush in general, which is the area that Chris Ballard has been so vociferous about wanting to bolster. And there are good players there, obviously, with DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, yourself. Now you add Latu to that mix. What is the mindset from a playing standpoint of seeing that competition, but at the same time, that kind of safety in numbers?
I mean, it gives you confidence that, no matter who's in and no matter what's going on, we're going to have a great rush and we're going to be able to get to the quarterback. But at the same time, there's that friendly competition of everybody wanting to, just being professional athletes, we're natural-born competitors. So competing to be the highest in the sacks or, get to the quarterback first, just whatever it is, and it being a fun competition and, us coming together as a group and making each other better and competing with each other and competing with guys across the league.
Colts defensive end Dayo Odeyingbo is our guest. He joins us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. Dayo, Jake kind of alluded to it in that first question, but with Latu coming in as their first-round selection for the Colts, looking back to your time through camp and just the process that everybody goes through getting acclimated, how unique is that for a rookie at a similar position coming in to a group that already has established veterans around it? And what advice, if any, have you given to him, or do you guys plan as a unit giving to him to get adjusted to the NFL quickly?
I mean, for him, it's just being confident in who he is and understanding, what got him here and why he was selected where he was. So I really don't foresee him having any problems coming in and really everybody has, time to get adjusted to the league, but he's such a great player that I think he's going to hit the ground running. So if anything, it's just, giving him the advice of, knowing who he is, being confident, and playing like, he belongs at the top of this league. So we're all excited for him and excited to see how this unit can play this year.
At what point last year going into this year did your unit as a whole become most familiar and most used to life underneath Gus Bradley?
I would just say throughout the last 2 seasons, you go through the ups and downs of the season and you see how people react. And Gus, he stays the same person throughout the season. There's a lot of stress that goes on through the season, but he's always there for you. He always cares about, who you are as a person and a player. So just seeing that, brings you closer as a unit, closer, with your coordinator.
Dayo, you went to Vanderbilt, which is one of the, top 15, top 20 academic institutions in the country, right? Guys like myself, we get 2 zip codes from Vanderbilt, and they have a security check there, right? So by sitting through classes at Vanderbilt and taking classes at Vanderbilt, you have had plenty of occasion where you've said to yourself, boy, that's a great question the professor asked. So I'm going to counter that by asking you a really dumb question for you, okay? So don't laugh at me. When you have now, and you went, and I realized that you saw it in sprinkles last year in practice with Anthony Richardson, but then obviously he gets hurt. Gardner Minshew comes in. How much and how will it benefit and strengthen you guys defensively by having to watch the simulation each and every week of Anthony Richardson's movements and his athleticism? What does he bring different to the table that you guys as a defense in practice can benefit from because it simulates challenges that you might see on Sundays from opponents?
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing he can't give you. He's got a great arm. He's got great legs. I mean, there's not really you can't really find a quarterback that's more talented just in his pure physical ability. So, there's nothing he can't do. So seeing that every day and then going in on Sundays, I mean, there's really nothing new. You've seen everything under the sun. So it's exciting to see him in practice and be able to see his abilities and, let him demonstrate everything he can do with his legs and his arms. So, I mean, it's been exciting, and it's exciting as a defense and exciting as a team.
How does going against him in practice, and I know that you're not, they're not giving you the green light to go hit Anthony Richardson all the time. I get it.
Yeah.
But having said that, seeing the manner in which he can change on a dime the way a play is going to work out, how has that forced you to be more disciplined as a defender?
Yeah, I mean, just in seeing, RPOs and just read options and stuff like that throughout practice and throughout, his time here, just gives you a good look to see what you might see against other teams, with athletic quarterbacks like Lamar and Kyler Murray, guys like that run similar type playbooks or not necessarily similar type playbooks, but have similar athletic abilities that can make plays with their legs. So when you see that in practice every day, there's really nothing surprising when we get to Sunday.
One of the most fun things for me about the first day of school when I was a kid was, and by the way, Dayo Odeyingbo is our guest on the Express Pro Tire and Auto Guest Line. One of my favorite things on the first day of school was seeing classmates that I hadn't seen all summer and then finding out what everybody did and where they went to camp and, et cetera. What was your off season like, and who did the craziest thing in the off season?
Well, so first of all, my off season was good. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of working on my craft, becoming a better football player, just with my technique. As far as the craziest thing during the off season, I mean, that's hard to say. I'm trying to think of what guys were doing, but I mean, a lot of the time in the off season, guys are kind of doing their own thing and just focusing on getting better and prepared for this next season. So you might not hear from guys all off season, and it's exciting to see them on the first day.
Yeah,
So,
how much do you guys stay in touch? I mean, be a group text, or even just as like the defensive line or whatever it might be, in keeping abreast of what everybody's doing, or is it truly best to kind of do your own thing and then reconvene?
Yeah, I mean, you get a couple texts in the group chat a week, and just reconnecting with guys. It's hard to just go cold turkey and not talk to guys at all. So because some of your closest friends, guys you've known for years. But it's definitely good to get away and decompress, knowing that you're going to be together every single day for the next 6 months plus. So it's good to have time away, but it's exciting to be back together right now.
Dayo, Jake got to ask a silly question, so it only seems fair that I ask one as well. So I hope that you can go as easy on me as you did on him. We hear for years as athletes enter contract years that it motivates them more, that they get more out of themselves in those seasons. Is that real? Do you find yourself pushing yourself to another level, or trying to anyway, because this is a contract year?
I mean, there's definitely that underlying motivation of that, but I don't think it really changes as far as the mentality you're coming in with. You don't really want to put that pressure over your head and let that mess with you. So for me, it just comes down to playing football, and kind of the the motivation comes from knowing I have experience under my belt, and being excited just to be able to come into the season with everything that I've learned through the last 3 or 2.5, and be able to use those mistakes and those successes to have a great season this year and let everything else with contracts work out.
I'm going to go back to that rookie year. You get drafted, your dream becomes a reality, but you are entering the NFL as an injured player. And then even as you're getting healthy, the narrative from everybody is, well, wait till Dayo's healthy, wait till Dayo's healthy. And you've got to go at your pace and what your body is telling you to do. Now, you grew up, if I'm not mistaken, I believe you're a first-generation or second-generation American, but you grew up with a family of people who had immigrated from Nigeria that clearly work ethic was instilled. How much did you lean on that or have to think about those things when I am sure times were not always easy for you from a patience standpoint when you initially got into the league?
Yeah, I mean, coming in, there was a lot of factors that weren't necessarily in my control. So just from how my parents raised me and just sort of our culture, we're kind of taught to control what we can control, and focus on what's right in front of us and let everything else work itself out. So coming in, it was definitely difficult not being able to participate in, camp in the off season, the first half of the season. And it was definitely hard mentally trying to, recover from an injury, but at the same time, come into the league with confidence while you're not necessarily able to compete. But just, sticking to my family and staying close to them and, keeping to my faith, I was able to, grow through that and learn from some of those adversities and use that to help me grow. And I definitely think it's helped me throughout my career now with adversities throughout our seasons and whatever it is, losses, battling injuries, things like that. So it's just, God puts things in front of you for a reason, and, you get trials and tribulations for a reason. So it's really just a blessing to have gone through that and have learned from it and come out on the other side a better person.
When you go through that process, would you say, looking back on it, that it was more physically challenging waiting for your body to be ready, or mentally challenging to have to wait?
It was a little bit of both. The physical definitely hurts, but it's definitely the mental, I feel like, is the biggest thing, because a lot of, like I talked about with Latu, a lot of coming into the league is just confidence and understanding who you are and understanding you belong. And it's kind of hard to get that and grow that when you're not necessarily being able to practice, go through OTAs, go through camp, where a lot of that confidence is built. And coming in like halfway through the season without, practice or an off season, and coming off an injury and having all that kind of compounding, it really just comes down to a lot of the mental and getting over that mentally, feeling comfortable with the injury, feeling comfortable in the league, things like that. So it's definitely a mental battle and a physical battle, but the mental is definitely the hardest thing to get over. But I definitely think it helps you grow and it helps you become a better player.
Dayo Odeyingbo is with us. He joins us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. Dayo, there were times last year where it felt like the secondary in particular would give up big drives or give up big outings to receivers. And this year, albeit just my opinion on the matter, there are still areas of that secondary that concern me. From a schematic standpoint, how much of taking that burden off the secondary lies on your unit as pass rushers getting after the quarterback as effectively as possible?
I definitely think there's always a pressure on rushing coverage works together. So there's always pressure on the rush to get home and, make life easier on your secondary. But, last year we had a lot of guys who were in their first year. And like I said, growing with confidence as you're coming into the league is a hard job. And I definitely think they grew throughout the season. At all positions, we all make mistakes and we all give up plays. And it just comes down to coming together as a team and growing in that. So I've seen our secondary grow as players, as a unit throughout this offseason. And I'm excited for them this season. I know they have the potential to be a great unit, and they've been working to do so. So we're all excited for them. And as a up front unit, our job is to make it much easier on them. And there's times where we could have did that last year, and we're going to come out this year and do it consistently on a play-to-play basis. So we're all excited to see both of the units, our rush and coverage, work together and have a great defense this year.
Okay, Dayo, since you are a pass rush specialist, we're going to end this with a question rush. I'm just going to ask you 6 quick questions, and you tell me the first answer that pops into your head instinctively. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Player that took you under their wing when you were a young player in the NFL was?
I'd definitely say DeForest Buckner.
Okay. Player as a young player now that you have taken under your wing in their intro to the NFL?
I'd say I've been helping Latu with just his transition into the league.
Okay. Music that most often is playing in your headphones?
Afrobeats.
Okay. I like that. Best movie you've ever seen?
Shawshank Redemption.
Dayo, let me tell you something. You are the official music critic of the show. You're not going to believe this, Dayo. No, let me tell you this right now. So, I'm Jake. The other guy you hear here is Jimmy, and then Eddie is the one that answered the phone when you called. These two guys have never seen Shawshank Redemption, and I've been telling them for 3 years now that it is the greatest movie ever made. You have seen it.
The greatest movie ever made.
Correct. It's a rainy Sunday in the middle of the summer, and you're sitting at home. You just got done working out. You're having a protein smoothie. You're flipping the channels. It's on. You cannot flip past it. Correct.
Come on, yeah.
I love it. Okay.
You guys got to get on the.
I know we do, Don.
All right, so a couple others real quick, and then we'll let you go. The last time that you cried?
I don't even know, honestly.
Okay, that's probably an expected answer for an NFL guy, to be honest with you. Okay, do you have any pets?
Yeah, I have a dog. His name's Cola.
Cola, C-O-L-A?
K-O-L-A.
K-O-L-A, that's cool. All right, I like that.
What kind of dog?
He's a German Shepherd Husky mix.
Nice. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. All right, and then lastly, if I'm not mistaken, you have in your lifetime lived in New York, Texas, Tennessee, and Indiana, correct?
Yeah, and Kentucky.
And Kentucky. Okay, well, we'll speak slowly. Okay, of those states, which one, not named Indiana, would you most want to retire to and live in the rest of your life?
Probably Texas.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. It's a whole other country, right?
Yeah.
All right, Dayo, by the way, best character in Shawshank, which one?
Red.
Yeah, hard to argue that, man. Hard to argue that. All right, well, Dayo, we will let you get busy living and certainly not get busy dying, but we appreciate the time today. Look forward to watching you and having you back on the program. We'll let you know when we finally get these guys. Do you want to come to our Shawshank party? We're going to sit and watch Shawshank. I'm going to invite you as well if you want to come. Cola can come too.
Send me the time.
All right. Dayo, I appreciate it, man. Have a good camp.
All right, thank you.
All right, Dayo Odeyingbo, the defensive end. We should have gotten him to say his name because it always trips me up, Eddie. It's like Osterman, and Dopirak, right? How about that for Shaw? You guys think I'm lying to you, right?
You know the sad part about it, Jake? I have a copy that my neighbor lent me a couple weeks ago. I've still yet to put it in. And it's not like a protest thing. I've yet to do it.
This is consecutive days now where we've had somebody join the program and bring up Shawshank in some capacity.
Do you think Jake's paying him? You think he's
think so.
actually doing a covert
I don't
operation
need to.
here?
It's that good. It sells itself. It sells itself. All right, big program again. Continue to line up. Eddie, what do we have going on the rest of the day?
We've got tickets to give away here next. Primus. Tickets.
All right, Primus tickets to give away, and maybe we'll invite one more to our Shawshank party, which is like our PBR party. It'll happen someday, I promise. In case you're just joining us, go ahead, Eddie.
I screwed up so the audience on radio didn't get to hear you coming back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forgot to put your buttons back.
So are we taking 2 on this?
Yep. Take 2.
Hi, in case you're just joining us.
Where have you been?
Thank you. You missed during the break. Every once in a while, I like to illuminate what takes place in the studio during the commercial breaks. You just missed Eddie Garrison if you were sitting here going on for 2.5 minutes in an angry old man drunken rant about how Major League Baseball too much features 4 teams and does not brand the rest of the league, right?
Yes. It's annoying. They wonder why they are struggling to get new fans when your primetime game that was so coveted as a kid growing up, like myself, would watch on Sunday Night Baseball. It would be different teams. Now it's just the Yankees, it's the Red Sox, it's the Dodgers, it's the Braves, it's the Cubs.
I don't disagree with Eddie. That is a fact, but I always feel like that's what it's been. Maybe throw the Giants in there every now and again, but it's always been the big markets.
Would people in Little Rock be clamoring for a Marlins-Mariners matchup?
Depends if they took them in a beer bet or not.
Right? I mean, honestly. By the way, have you been to Little Rock?
I have not. Have you?
I have. You boys are from Alabama, huh? Well, Little Rock's a hell of a town. Arkansas, Jimmy, I've mentioned this 100 times. So we've got tickets to give away for Primus. We're going to do it in just a second here. You tell me if you think this is worth me doing. I've flirted with this idea. I mentioned it. I need you 2 to vote on this.
Okay.
Or listeners.
Or a poll on query_company on X?
A poll for this question, yes, would be this. Because I don't know. This is either going to be the dumbest or the most fun thing. Not the most fun. It's either going to be dumb or fun. And I want you guys to tell me honestly.
Okay.
Since there are very few things in my life that I'm overly proud of, but one of them that I'm the most proud of is that I've been to all 50 states. That's the one that's my biggest accomplishment in life is that I've been to all 50 states, right? So I've always thought that it would be fun to do a 50-day blog where I rank 50 to 1 what I think are the best states based on my experiences and what I've seen. Okay, Jimmy, dumb or fun?
Dumb.
Eddie, dumb or fun?
Fun.
I think it can be made fun by taking it a step further, which is making it a vlog and making it 50 states in 50 days live from those states.
That would be very challenging.
I understand
that. Would be cool.
I know.
Can you imagine?
But it'd be awesome.
It would be awesome. The reason I bring it all up, there are states that I think people would be, and this is just my experience based on the places that I've been, the natural beauty of it, the people, the fun things that I saw, the serendipitous events that happened. And there are some states that I think people would naturally assume would rank very high that I would not have that high. And there are other states that people would assume would be like bottom of the barrel that you would be surprised would actually fare well. And Arkansas is one of them that would be higher up than people think. It is gorgeous. The people were friendly. Although I went to the town where they filmed Sling Blade. I don't expect that either of the 2 of you saw that. And went to the actual location where Bill Cox's lawnmower shop truly did exist. And the guy that now runs the vacuum cleaner store there had no idea what I was talking about. And I'm like, this is a town in Arkansas of 7,000 people where a major Oscar Academy Award nominated film was filmed here, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. And then I thought maybe it was kind of like when I went to Brentwood, California, and was asking people where Nicole Simpson's condo was, and everybody had no idea. And then I realized they just didn't want people to know where it was. And I thought maybe they just don't want people to know that. So then I went to the laundromat where they filmed in Sling Blade and finally found somebody that knew it. And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, how does this guy not know that there's something there? And they're like, I don't know. That's he's new to town. Okay, so we have tickets to give away. Is that right, Eddie?
Yes, sir.
And how are we deciding to do this? You, as the CEO, you've determined what?
Get to know your listener. You do have some time for it this go around.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
And we are going with Andrew. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Andrew on line number 2. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
I can't complain,
Thursday.
Andrew.
Happy
What's
Thursday
that?
to you.
Happy Thursday.
Same to you, my friend. Same to you. Now, Andrew, have you called the program before?
First time on the Jake and Co. show.
Really? Well,
First
now that's
timer.
Query and Company, although I guess it would be Jake and Company as well. Andrew, do you mind
Query and
playing Get to
Company.
Know Your Listener? We've had a lot of success with this. Kids in particular find it a fascinating segment. Are you willing to participate, Andrew?
Let's It's Thursday. Let's try it out.
Okay. So, Andrew, my first question would be, since you are a first-time caller to the program, how long have you been listening to this show?
Probably since you were in the morning. So
Okay.
probably 2 years ago.
Okay. Well, that's much appreciated.
I don't listen to you as often because you're on during the lunchtime, and I'm not in my car. I just so happen to be on my way to BMV, and I like.
Are you going to get new plates? You going to get a new license? What are we doing at the BMV?
License expires in about a month. So,
Do you have to take the test again?
hopefully not. Jesus.
Andrew, let me ask you this, Andrew. In what year did you initially get your driver's license?
2007.
2007. Okay, so my quick math tells me that you're somewhere around Larry Bird's age, 33. Is that right?
Nope, 34.
34. Okay.
St. Patty's Day.
Okay, so Andrew, that would mean that you were the graduating class somewhere around 2009 from high school. Is that right?
You're right in between there, buddy. You're right in between. It's 08.
Okay, 2008
Jake,
graduating class.
You
So
missed
were,
a nugget there.
But what's that?
His birthday St. Patrick's?
Happy birthday to you, Andrew.
I know. I'm surprised you passed up on it. I was like, man.
You can go ahead and kiss on the blarney stone there.
Andrew, when you were in 2000, so are you younger for your grade? Are most of your buddies a little bit older than you from high school? Did you graduate at 17 instead of 18?
No, I graduated at 18, but my birthday following.
March. You towards the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that high school was what, Andrew?
The Bears, LC.
Lawrence Central. Okay, so Andrew, if you could pick any team that you support, whether it be college, whether it be pro, if you could pick any team to win a championship in the upcoming season, I don't mean who you think has the best chance. I mean the one that would bring you the most joy. What team are you going with?
Well, born in upstate New York, I'm going to say the Yankees. New York Yankees.
Now, Andrew, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
How old were you when you moved to Indianapolis?
9.
9. Okay, and when you say you were born in upstate New York, we're talking like Ithaca, we're talking Corning, we're talking Buffalo, we're talking where exactly? You can stop me at any time.
Utica, in between Syracuse and Lake George.
Okay.
So upstate, yeah.
No offense to you here in any way, shape, or form. You realize that people in New York City don't even know where Utica is, right?
Trust me. I mean, I've lived in Indiana for over 20 years now. I have to explain to them all the time that I'm not from the city. So,
correct.
Well aware of that.
Okay, so I think you should be more of a Buffalo Bisons fan, for example, or a Syracuse Sky Chiefs fan, or maybe even a Toronto Blue Jays fan. I think regionally that does better for you in terms of explanation. You can just say you're a front-running bandwagoner, and that's why the Yankees. That's fine. I mean, Jimmy accepts it. Jimmy's cool with it.
I fully support your Yankee fan.
All right, Andrew, I'm just giving you a hard time. Enjoy the Primus show. We are hooking you up with the tickets, and go Bears, and I guess we'll say go Yankees as well. We come back. Chris Ballard had some interesting things to say about Shane Steichen and about Ryan Kelly. We'll let you hear from him next. Legend was that ZZ Top got its name by combining zigzags with top rolling papers. I believe that's been debunked. But nonetheless, Jimmy Cook is the sharp-dressed man when it comes to this trio today. That's not necessarily a huge prize because Eddie and I'm wearing shorts and a very good-looking, might I say so, Deer Creek t-shirt from the shop. Eddie is going with...
I'm wearing a polo and shorts.
Yeah, but I think Jimmy's polo is nicer than yours. No offense.
I don't know how to put this delicately, Jake, but for some reason, maybe it's the Deer Creek shirt. The YouTube chats would ask you to stand up more. I don't know what that was about. I'm not certain if that was just.
I don't blame them.
I don't know.
When I do stand up, I mean, listen, this kind of 6'4" sexiness and sleek sex, I get it. People want to see the whole package, right?
Exactly.
I mean, when you go to Paris, you don't just want to round the corner and just see one little sliver of the Eiffel Tower. You want to see the entire thing, right?
Get up close and personal.
The imposing sexiness that it is.
Exactly.
So there you go. The YouTube chat, those in the break room, thank you. Hello. Thank you all who are watching and enjoying this fine au naturel look. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. This is without steroids. Okay, so Chris Ballard talking.
You have too much respect for the game.
At the outset, that's right. Chris Ballard talking at the outset of training camp about a number of different issues. Yesterday, we touched on Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly's situation is an interesting one to me. I think he's been a very good player for the Colts. Anytime that you draft a center and you have them for, multiple contracts and you have them for multiple years, that's become what we're used to in Indianapolis because of Jeff Saturday. That's kind of the gold standard. And even before that, I mean, they had really good centers back when the Colts didn't have a whole lot else, to be totally truthful. Ray Donaldson was a really good player. And then you had Samson Sattelli, which was just kind of filling in because they tried to put Mike Pollock in that position. It didn't work out. Those things happen. But Ryan Kelly's been a really good player. He's had concussions that have led him to miss time. He obviously had a terrible personal tragedy with his wife that he gets. Both of them just were tremendous in their transparency in that and their faith through all of that. But it always led to question as to whether or not Ryan Kelly would be interested in retiring or continuing to play. And I think that there was even thought a year ago that there was all kinds of chatter going this time a year ago, like Ryan Kelly was going to retire. And then he showed up and said, no, I mean, I was playing under weight and so my body's back and I feel better. And now here he is and his contract is up at the end of the year. And yesterday we played for you the audio where you heard from Ryan Kelly saying the Colts expressed to me they weren't interested in an extension and it is what it is. Chris Ballard was asked about the contractual situation now of Ryan Kelly going into the final year of his contract and whether or not, Chris Ballard, would you please let us know, is it true what Ryan Kelly says? Did you tell him that you're not interested in an extension?
I don't talk about contracts, and every case is different. I think one thing we've proven since we've been here is we're really loyal to players that have been good players. I think that'll work itself out over time, but I'm not going to talk about contract stuff.
Now, one thing where Chris Ballard, I will give him credit. Jimmy, he's right about that. Chris Ballard has been a very average general manager. Let's just be frank. He's been an average GM. They got an average record. They've won a playoff game. There's very little other than expectation and buzz and hype going around him and the
near perfect mediocrity.
Correct. There was, for the first 3 to 5 years that he was here, it was, oh man, this guy's the golden child. And, then Andrew Luck retires. Well, and you bank on that for 3 or 4 years, you live off of that. Do I think he's terrible? No. Do I think that he is, the greatest? No. He's gotten a lot of time. He's gotten a long leash. And the time is now. And I do like their prospects going into the year. I think he's built a good roster. I think they have depth. I think they're going to be better probably than people think. So in all of those areas, I don't think that condemning him all the time is fair, and I don't think that praising him all the time is just. I think he's right in the middle. However, one area where he has been very transparent, and we as the media have been slow to acknowledge it, I think fans have because those of us that are the messengers have not necessarily caught on to this, have not fans also, and fans are smarter than I get that, and I'm being serious. But one thing that he has done is he has been pretty transparent about those things when it comes to contracts. When he says, look, I don't discuss contracts, but I will tell you that we are typically pretty good to our own. When he has said in the past, we reward good players and we like to keep our own, usually that player ends up staying here. And you're surprised by it at first because you go, there's no way Jonathan Taylor's going to stay a Colt. And then all of a sudden, I'm broadcasting the Wiener Dog races at German Fest with Lindsay Monroe from Channel 13, and I get a bulletin on my phone on a Saturday in October saying Jonathan Taylor just agreed to an extension. And you go, you know what? He pretty much said that's what they were going to do. Now, Ryan Kelly tells us otherwise. Do we have that Ryan Kelly from yesterday, Eddie? Pull that up because I want to compare and contrast what Chris Ballard says and then play it with what Ryan Kelly says, because you might think it sounds like point counterpoint, but then again, maybe it doesn't. And I'll explain what I'm talking about. Let's hear from Chris Ballard one more time talking about Ryan Kelly.
I don't talk about contracts, and every case is different. I think one thing we've proven since we've been here is we're really loyal to players that have been good players. I think that'll work itself out over time, but I'm not going to talk about contract stuff.
Okay, when he says that'll work itself out over time, Ryan Kelly, when asked about whether or not Chris Ballard he feels will offer him an extension. This is Ryan Kelly yesterday.
Yeah, from what from our standpoint, is the Colts have basically made it pretty clear that they don't want to do an early extension. So, is what it is. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, we made it known that we wanted to stay and that we wanted to have an extension, and they didn't see it as part of their priority. So,
he's now early and priority are the key words there. Now that you heard from Ballard, and Ballard says it'll work itself out in time, and we're loyal to the guys that have been good players. Ryan Kelly's been a good player. Ryan Kelly there, if you notice, said they didn't want to do an early extension. An early extension, that means right now. That doesn't mean long term. If Ryan Kelly wants to stay with the Colt and play another year or two, I think that possibility might be there for him. I don't think it's a priority. He's right about that. But, Jimmy, I do think that again, this is one where we could be snookered a little bit because of our own interpretations and expectations and acceleration of finality, when in reality, Ballard's like, hey, in time. But I got bigger fish to worry about right now.
Maybe I'm misremembering some of the past instances of this. So you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's a chance I'm dead wrong on this. I don't remember a player of the last couple of these negotiations. Jonathan Taylor, when we had the saga with Michael Pittman Jr., the list goes on. I don't remember a player specifically saying anything along the lines of, it's not a priority, or they said no, or they seemed like they were not interested in doing this. You're right, the early part is key, Jake, but I don't remember someone being that open about it. So it's weird that it is Chris Ballard's MO. You're right, he's consistent. He's always said, we don't talk about contracts, but it's weird when you have a player publicly say they weren't interested in an early extension, and Ballard won't give any acknowledgement to it. I appreciate him staying true to his brand, but that it's now a question. It's not a massive camp storyline like we've talked about, but it is a question now of, I believe Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly has no reason to say that and it be a lie.
The key word there's early.
Yes, it is. Doesn't mean that the door's closed.
Correct. They didn't want to do an early extension. Probably a big part of that is how much Ryan Kelly stays healthy this year. That's going to be a major factor.
And if your point about having this yearly debate of will he or won't he, if you're worried about his morale still being in it, that gives you a whole year to see and judge that. If
they
you're worried
also
about that.
may well want to see what they have in the draft from what they drafted to appear to be as heir apparent, but that doesn't mean that you just automatically slide in. Now, the tight end situation. Who are the two best tight ends in the NFL?
Travis Kelce and George Kittle.
Those guys completely change offenses, right?
Yes.
And when you have those weapons, it absolutely facilitates for other things to take place. The Colts have on their roster a lot of seemingly, I did that game with you guys once where I said, if I gave you $100,000 and you've got to get 3 cars, one has to be the car that is reliable to you in the snow, one is your everyday car, and one is the Sunday afternoon open fields out in the country, let it go, put the top down car.
Yeah.
3 different kinds of cars, right? But the Colts with the tight end situation have numbers. They've got a big garage, right?
The way I've always looked at that garage or that room, they have tight ends of all trades with masters of none. There's no one that excels
Correct.
to the point where they are clearly the do-it-all, set-it-and-forget-it tight end. It is a tight end by committee.
They are seemingly full of, in my opinion, almost interchangeable. I mean, Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Granson, Andrew Ogletree, those guys feel like the same guy, don't they?
Yes.
Will Mallory is one that I think has shown a little bit of like turn upfield level ability, but I don't know that he offers you the big, like red zone type target, plays breaking down, quarterback scrambling, back of the end zone guy like a Mo Alley Cox does, for example. But Cox doesn't have the run after catch that other guys do.
The other thing that's tough in that same vein, Jake, you don't notice when one's out there versus when they're not.
Correct.
Like if you took Michael Pittman Jr. off the field, you would feel that with that wide receiver room. You take Jelani Woods or Mo Alley Cox or Colin Granson off the field, there's not a void like, oh, why isn't he out there? And maybe that changes this year. Like, look, the big thing we've been banking on is perhaps this is the year Jelani Woods has an entirely healthy campaign and he takes a massive leap forward. I'm not asking for anybody in that tight end room to be George Kittle or to be Travis Kelce, but I would like to see an every down tight end emerge.
Now, we didn't even mention Eric Tomlinson, Jordan Murray. Sure, we told you about Mo Alley Cox. Jelani Woods, another one that is expected to be kind of a Mo Alley Cox type player, and maybe he's the hybrid between the two because he has yards after catch. He's a bigger player, 6'7". He can be in the back. Maybe he does have yard after catch ability if he can get in shape. The hamstring's good. But Chris Ballard, the game plan typically for teams is to get tight ends that are game changers like a George Kittle, like a Travis Kelce. They don't grow on trees, I realize it. Is there one within the Colts? Chris Ballard, what say you?
I think we got 6 on the roster, don't we? Or 7. We had 6 or 7, and they're all viable. Do we have a per se superstar in the group? Probably not. Do we have really good players at the group? Yeah. I mean, Mo Alley's got a role. Ogletree's got a role. Granson's got a little bit of a role. Mallory, we think, is going to do some really good things. We got to see with Jelani. Jelani showed some really good things as a rookie and then was hurt all last year. He got to stay healthy, and let's see what he's got. Then you got Tomlinson, who's played in this league and is a good wide blocking tight end. So I think that'll work itself out over time. I think you're seeing a league. I mean, I think with Shane and our offensive staff, they're going to play to the strength. So, like, if those guys end up have to be on the field, we're more 12, 13 personnel every once in a while, then he'll do it. He'll do whatever he thinks, and adjust every half to win. But I do think it's a good group. Might not be a superstar, but it's a good group.
I don't disagree with that, but I do think that it's a league where with that many guys, you want one to be a superstar player. That again, they don't grow in trees. I get it. You can't answer every question with it'll work itself out in time because, and I know he's essentially a rookie when we're talking about Anthony Richardson, but the roster itself is good enough that the time is going to be now. The window is opening. So you can't just keep kicking the can down the road for another 3 years and another 3 years because you're 54-60-1. At some point, you got to get that on the right side of the ledger.
We also keep drawing, and he did it 3 times in that statement. We keep drawing these lines in the sand of, well, they're not superstars, but they're good players. Okay, I'm not asking for superstar, but I'm also not asking for good player. I'm asking for average, middle-of-the-road tight end that can clearly play almost every down. And I get it. Some teams will have 2 or 3 tight end sets. Some teams will have formations where you rely on somebody that's maybe a better blocker than a pass-catching tight end. I get all of that, and it's a good luxury to have. The problem I have is you can't use superstar as a shield to hide behind, like, oh, we don't have superstars. What do you want from us here? Well, I want better than good. I would take great to solid. That would be fine. I don't need a superstar level top 5 tight end in the league. But to your point, Jake, life would be so much easier, both from Shane Steichen and what he could further add to the offense and Anthony Richardson's development, if it was a singular tight end that you had out there, like a David Njoku in Cleveland. He is up there towards the top, but I don't even know if he's in Cleveland now anymore, but is he still in Cleveland? Thank you, Eddie. He's not Kittle or Kelsey, but he's a solid mid to maybe upper mid tight end. That's what I would like to see the Colts develop at some point in these early years of Anthony Richardson. And maybe it is Jelani Woods, but right now there's nothing but hope to say that anybody in that tight end room is going to be that.
We have talked so much about Anthony Richardson now, what you want to see in year 2, about Jonathan Taylor, what you want to see now that he's healthy and ready to go right out of the box, about Michael Pittman Jr. now that he is signed, sealed, and delivered, and we know he's the number 1, about Alec Pierce now, whether or not with Anthony Richardson he can develop. What we haven't talked a lot about is the fact that the Colts now have a head coach that is entering year number 2. Shane Steichen himself has areas probably where he could improve, maybe where he could learn. Part of that is just the team and what the roster knows they have in Shane Steichen. Chris Ballard's thoughts on Shane Steichen year 2 versus year 1.
I think anytime it's, anytime when we had the coaching change with Frank and switched over to Shane, there is change. I mean, there is a change, some of, kind of what he was looking for in players. And it was a good start, not how we wanted it because we didn't make the playoffs, which always ramps up, a little bit of tension because we're competitors. We're not getting in this thing to fail. No, we're in this thing to win. And so I think anytime you don't finish the way you want to, which at the end of the day is everybody wants to win the Super Bowl. So everybody, other than one team, everybody's a little disappointed. But I'm encouraged about where we're going. The adversity we faced last year and overcame, that showed a lot about not only the team, but our coaching staff. I mean, it could have been easy to melt down last year, and they didn't. They fought and gave us a chance to get in at the end of the year. We just didn't. At the end of the day, we didn't get it done.
I think I'm really curious to ask Shane Steichen, because I don't know that he's been asked this necessarily, Jimmy, where the Colts got very close. They were a game from going into the postseason, and they fell short. What did he learn from that, right? Did he get too creative at times? Did he outthink himself at times? Did he realize sometimes that it's okay to just stick with the basics?
I mean, there's going to be growth in general from year 1 to year 2. I think that if you're referring to, and Jake, I don't think you're just talking specifically to that play, but the play that ends the season, some argued that a simple handoff would have been fine. And I defended Steichen for that play call, saying that is what modern NFL looks like. 4th and 1, 4th and 2, whatever it is. Conventional wisdom might tell you to run. More often than not, pass catchers can execute at such a high level, and the route was beautiful. Goodson just regrettably dropped the ball, and I'm not trying to hammer further on him, but it's a modern play call. But yeah, you would hope there's some growth and development. One other thing I want to throw out, not on the Steichen side, but back to the tight end comments for a second. These are not the be-all, end-all of ranking systems, and as JMV refers to them, the nerds, but he often talks to those nerds weekly throughout the NFL season. PFF ranked the top 32 tight ends going into 2024 for the NFL season. There's no Colts tight ends on that list.
Pro Football Focus,
Pro
right?
Football Focus, yeah. There's no Colts tight ends on that list. Again, I'm not asking for superstars. I'm just asking for, middle to back of the pack would be fine.
The old saying being that if you have multiple quarterbacks, you have none.
Correct.
There's kind of something to be said for that about tight end also, right?
Yeah. I'm fine with having minutes distribution or rather snap count distribution, but I'd like to have a do-it-all. Doesn't have to be a superstar. Just be, top 32 in the league of 32 teams.
Jake, I love the Ballard audio. He is a gold medal BSer. Jake, 54, 60, and 1 is a below-average used car salesman. I'm telling you. You can't keep kicking it down the can down the road, right? You can't keep saying, in time. It's been time, right?
It goes
Time's
back
now.
Yeah, it goes back to the question on if they're right on Richardson, what do you need to see from Ballard in this roster to know that he's capable of team building to the point that would lead to a division title and a conference championship appearance and maybe one day a Super Bowl? And there's excuses built into that, Jake, of which I know we don't condone those excuses now, but all the Andrew Luck of it all, or all the situations they were in, you're past that now. This is year 2 of a quarterback you drafted, and you have to build around him to set him up for success. And the 2 ways that might be whammies for you are you fail to build around him, or the quarterback doesn't pan out. Those would both be, here are your papers, thanks for playing situations for me, if either of those wind up being failures.
Joel A. Erickson going to join us coming up at the top of the hour, and this will obviously be a discussion. We'll also get kind of a layout of what took place in the early practice session this morning as the Colts are back onto the practice field, obviously, and practice number 1 was this morning at 10 o'clock. That was a brief practice, you said, Eddie, just an hour, right?
Yep. Most of them are an hour to an hour 15. They've got one that's an hour 30.
So we will talk about that with Joel and find out if we missed anything so far that's happened out in Westfield. Statewide, a lot going on this week. What are you talking about, Jake? We're talking about Westfield. I know, but I'm talking about other areas of the state. I'm talking about Kokomo. I'm talking about Bloomington. I'm talking about right here in Indianapolis. I'm talking about Lawrenceburg. What? I'll explain next. Jimmy, you know how you can tell a rookie or a first-timer at a USAC dirt track race that has good seats, but you can tell it's the first time they've been there?
How's that, Jake?
They don't bring any sort of eye protection or anything to cover themselves when the dirt starts flying. That was the case for me several years ago. First time I went to Kokomo, and all of a sudden I'm like, why is everybody putting on, like, eye protection? And then the cars started roaring around, which was awesome. They're sliding sideways, and I thought, yeah, okay, there we go. That's the reason why. One of those that will be riding in this week's USAC or upcoming USAC Indiana Sprint Week tonight at the Moose Lodge in Greencastle. You know something's fun when you say that there's an event at the Moose Lodge in Greencastle. Tonight there's going to be a party to start and kick off Indiana Sprint Week, which gets underway beginning at Lincoln Park tomorrow night, and then on Kokomo on Saturday, followed by Lawrenceburg, Circle City Raceway, Terre Haute, Bloomington, Tri-State Raceway. A lot going on. Kevin Thomas Jr., who is 5th right now in USAC points in the sprints, joins us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto Guest Line to talk about exactly that. Kevin, I assume you are fired up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on, and we're looking forward for an exciting week here.
You know, I want to begin with that. Just for those that are unfamiliar, I'll give you the platform here. I know one of the things that you're passionate about when you're not out running is, trying to grow the sport and just the awareness for USAC. People here know about the Indy 500. They know obviously about the Brickyard 400. For those that are not up to speed, pardon the pun, fill us in on what happens during Sprint Week and why it is so awesome to be able to watch you guys running on dirt in USAC.
Well, obviously, it's Indiana Sprint Week, and a lot of our non-wing fans are from the state of Indiana or the surrounding states, and it's a 1 week period of racing. We start on Friday and we end the next Saturday, and it's a pretty long week, because it's in July. It's not necessarily cold, so it's a long, hard week. The fans like to travel with it, and throughout the night you'll get we'll have practice. It's usually 3 to 5 laps, single car qualifying, and whenever you get upwards to 45, 50 cars a night, you obviously get your money's worth for the qualifying, let alone just the rest of the night. And then we go to the qualifying events, which are called heat races or B-mains, and then you get a feature at the end of it. So you get quite a bit of racing through each night, and then we do it for 7 times in a row.
It's interesting, Kevin. When I know for you, here you have the tracks. You heard me mention all of them. If I'm not mistaken, you have stated before that Kokomo is your favorite track. I'm sure you like all of them, but how is it different? I mean, when you're going through and you talk about running this many tracks over the course of a week and the different places that you're going, how is each track different, and how long does it take you, even in tracks you've been to before, when you are going through this sort of a quick turnaround from one to the next to kind of reacclimate once you're getting into the cockpit?
Well, I've done it for long enough where I usually don't get a surprise, but each track is different, obviously. But we have just different styles of dirt. It may rain that day, it may not. With it being July and it being hot majority of the time, it depends on if we've had rain in the past, few days. Depends on how we more or less set our cars up, and if the track's going to be sticky, whether it's going to be dry or dusty. So those are really the only curveballs that get thrown at us. Especially a rain shower the day of, can really throw a wrench in your plans. But we've done it for so long, my team and myself personally. So we feel like we're very well prepared for this week. But teams that are new to this, it might I know we got a couple guys from Pennsylvania and teams from Pennsylvania that come out, and they're seeing a lot of these places for the first time, and they're going to see them for 7 days in a row and have to kind of be on their feet whenever it comes to making changes to their cars. So it could be a very hard week, and it could also be an easy week, and we're hoping for the latter.
Kevin, having grown up in Alabama, and I know that it's mentioned that while you were playing high school baseball, you were often spending weekends driving to Indiana and racing there, and then somehow making it back in time for class on Monday. What was it, and what is it still to this day about the racing culture, the pedigree, and the fans of the sport here in Indiana that made you want to be a part of it?
Well, a few things. Obviously, I didn't grow up racing like the majority of everybody that is now doing it. As a professional level, I grew up a different way than everybody else. So, what I have seen, in my years being here, I'm right at 15 years now, is just the passion that they have for it. They're very loyal, and if they're not your fan, they're not your fan. And that's what I like. The whole sport's built off of. Just like any other sport, you either like one team or you don't. And, you got people that are passionate about whether it be a track, whether it be a driver. You got, fans that are passionate about teams in general. No matter what driver gets in them, they're locked in on a certain team. And I've experienced that with Kyle Cummins driving the car that I drive now. And people have stayed with the team instead of going with Kyle. They now buy my T-shirts. And so I think that aspect is kind of cool, just seeing the loyalty of the fans. And then, you show up and you got hundreds of campers, people that have followed the sport. It's nice to race in front of fans that appreciate whatever you're doing out there.
So, by the way, Alabama or Auburn, the team with which or for which you were most passionate growing up was which?
No question, Alabama. I don't even like the colors blue or orange.
I'm a Clemson fan, so I guess naturally that means we've got to have – although I don't know if that rivalry still exists anymore, right?
Yeah, I think it's kind of died out a little bit, but if it ever comes back, we're going to have some words.
You know what? Here's what's funny. Kevin, I went to both national championship games when Alabama and Clemson played, and it was really funny because it was almost like Clemson was such a Johnny-come-lately that Alabama fans, I think, were happy to see somebody different. It was really a pretty cool interaction between both fan bases. It wasn't the angst that you would think. That's rare, I realize, but Alabama fans were super cool. Even when Clemson beat them, it was like, hey, congratulations, we'll get you guys next year. I thought it was super cool, to be honest with you. So that does say something for the people of your fan base, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only time that we have like legitimate hatred towards people is Auburn, and that's really even died down a little bit, just because they're not very good.
Yeah, they're not carrying their weight, right?
Yeah, so they're not carrying their weight, and it's not even fun to root against the guy who sucks already. So we try not to bash on them when they're down, but whenever they get good, it gets ramped back up again. So, but yeah, we try to be as respectful as we can, but we still want to win.
Now, I want to make sure that I'm saying this right, and if I'm wrong, then send me a bill in the mail. Still Inferno Armor, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So your Inferno Armor car, when you're talking about Sprint Week, and again, we're talking to Kevin Thomas Jr. on the Express Pro Tire and Auto Guest line. Indiana Sprint Week coming up here, beginning tomorrow night at Lincoln Park, and then it's Kokomo, Lawrenceburg, Circle City. Circle City's very cool, by the way. Terre Haute, Bloomington, Tri-State, all of it taking place. You got to be careful with your equipment. I mean, how expensive does it get, and how much, even though you're fifth in points, you're wanting to make runs, but are there times where you have to be more sensitive in terms of, say, aggression at the beginning of the week versus other times on the schedule because you know of the arduous nature of it, even though, to your point, you guys run an awful lot? Yeah.
Obviously there's many nights that you can you can gain points by either, being really good or other people's misfortune. But, to win the week, we've won it twice. And I've noticed that in those 2 weeks that I was, quite a bit more patient with maybe some of the moves that I would normally make or, just trying to pick your right spots of the racetrack and be as focused on, the complete outcome of the week instead of, I got to get this spot because it gains me either 3 points or, $100. You just got to be a little bit more patient with some of the stuff, and which is good for me because I'm naturally impatient. So it kind of forces me into racing better, honestly. So, it's definitely long. You can get yourselves in a pickle real quick. And, even the 2 years that I had early in the week at Gas City, I got myself in a pinch and had to battle back from it. And, it just kind of makes you, second guess maybe some things, but also whenever you're second guessing, you're having somebody else that isn't. So, it's just kind of a mess of emotions whenever you want to do something, you probably shouldn't. And then there's somebody else that, pushes their limit and, gets themselves in a better spot and now puts you in a bad spot. So, It's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's a long week, and you can make and break your whole week by doing something silly early, and then you have to kind of come back from that. And there's usually two guys that are making the right decisions all week, and it usually ends up as a battle there at Hopstad.
Now, Kevin, as a man of the people, I understand that one of your favorite places to eat is Taco Bell. Man after my own heart in that regard. What's your go-to order at Taco Bell if you're thinking outside the bun?
Yeah, obviously I'm not a super big health guru. There's some drivers that work out 5 times a week, and then here I am. So I'm lucky enough that I'm able to eat that and still be in shape. But my go-to, I always get a beefy 5-layer.
Nice.
And I always get a bean burrito, extra red sauce. And then my third option changes. And then obviously a Baja Blast large.
Absolutely have to, yes.
Now, you ever taken the sprint car through the drive-thru? That'd be awesome.
No, but I have taken the T-shirt trailer hooked up to the truck through the drive-thru. So they won't let you order on foot. So I can squeak in there, back up, pull around the awning, and then they'll let you pick up your food.
So you've done this before, I take it, right? Several times.
I'm a professional when it comes to ordering on the road with the trailer.
That is beautiful. All right, so hopefully they have Taco Bell near Lincoln Park, also in Kokomo, in Lawrenceburg on the 28th, Circle City Raceway the 31st, then kicking off August 1st in Terre Haute, at the Action Track on the 2nd in Bloomington, then in Tri-State on August 3rd. And again, everything getting underway tonight, party to celebrate it all at the Moose Lodge in Greencastle for USAC Indiana Sprint Week. And Kevin, you can find Kevin's information, KevinThomasJr.com is the website. Kevin, we appreciate the time. Wish you the best of luck, all right? And enjoy the Taco Bell in Victory Lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. Look forward to seeing all the fans out this whole week, and everybody stay hydrated and filled up on Taco Bell.
We appreciate that. And if you want to stay hydrated on NOS Energy Drink, they're cool with that too because they sponsor the entire thing. By the way, I love this. Jake, I'm from Kokomo. I've been to 37 Indy 500s and 64 Cup races, but Sprint Week is absolutely cool. We meet loyal fans from all over, including last year from Australia and Terre Haute of all places that come for Indiana Sprint Week. I wonder actually if it was Michael.
I was going to ask you that.
Bringing Tim Tams and the veggie chips, the whole deal, right?
By the way, you've not been to Taco Bell if you haven't gotten a large Baja Blast. That's the way that you end the order. It's a beautiful thing. I'm proud of Kevin. I was worried he wasn't going to say it, but yeah.
Do they still do the quesadillas at Taco Bell?
Yeah.
I know that's a standard,
steak quesadilla. Yeah, yep.
I'm a fan of the quesadillas at
Me
Taco
too.
Bell.
I like the sauce they use with them. Very good.
Man, I'll tell you what. First off, backing the trailer through and the drive-through, that's pretty cool, right?
That's a baller move.
That is. That right there is like, I'm here and I have arrived. Let's go, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Joel A. Erickson, by the way, going to join us just about 15 minutes from now on a Thursday that we assume is still gorgeous outside. Do we know if it's still nice out? We're landlocked here. Can you see? Can you bend and see? Because I don't want to say it's a gorgeous day if a pop-up thunderstorm just arrived. We were golfing yesterday, and we got to hole 12, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what happened?
According to my weather app, it is 79 and sunny.
Ooh, is there a breeze?
I don't know.
How's the humidity? Because I'm trying to determine if, in fact, Eddie, it is San Diego weather. Can you look up the San Diego weather and tell? Here, I'll look up San Diego, and we'll tell you if it's San Diego weather today.
Feels like 84 today because of.
Ooh.
Well, it doesn't say why. It's 59% humidity.
Here's what we have in San Diego, California right now. 79. Okay. What did you say our temperature is, Eddie?
80.
Feels like 84. What's the feels like?
The high in San Diego today, 83.
Okay.
What sort of scroll down there? It feels like 82, by the way.
Right. Feels like 84 here.
No precipitation in the last 24 hours. Okay, now the humidity level is the key here, and it's a little bit high in San Diego today.
Uh-oh.
What is the humidity level right now in Indianapolis, Indiana? That's my question for you.
59%.
59?
59%.
Correct.
I can't imagine.
The dew point is 65 degrees.
It's big. UV index is 7. Wear some sun protection out there, people.
On the days that this happens, because we're getting into the area where it's going to be harder and harder to do this.
Yeah.
Mine says 7, Jimmy. Is that what you said, or did you say
7? Yep. Okay. On the UV index.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the days when this happens, where Indianapolis's weather is this close to that of San Diego, because it's been my euphemism forever. You know, in San Diego, it's like this 363 days a year. There are not many days in Indianapolis when you can say that it matches this much, that we can play this song right here, which is the greatest. Now, do you have your polyester? Do you have your leisure suit going?
I do.
Eddie, you got your toe tapping?
No.
Come on. You love this, man. I know deep down you do. You know why?
Why?
Superchargers.
It's admittedly a banger. Like, don't get me wrong, I can't stand the Chargers, but it's awesome. It is a great jam.
And there's no copyright infringement now. They're not even San Diego anymore, right?
Chargers. That's great.
Back in the 70s, everybody was just hanging out in one of the New York City studios, 54, and for some reason at 3 in the morning, they still had energy and just decided to write disco songs about everything.
By the way, did you see what Shane Steichen said about Anthony Richardson?
Can you tell us on the other side?
I'll play what he said.
Ooh.
Did he call him a supercharger?
No.
We'll find out next. Right now, Eddie, would you like to please divulge for everybody where this call is coming from?
Wow, that's pretty impressive. St. Lucia. I'm just kidding.
San Diego, California, calling me right now. I feel like I should answer it because it's probably somebody saying, by the way, did you just play the San Diego Supercharger song? Maybe it's a lawyer.
Oh.
Maybe it's a lawyer because
be
we broke some sort of a copyright thing by playing it for too long on the YouTube channel. It is a Thursday. How are you? My name is Jake Query. Eddie Garrison,
I'm good. How are
Jimmy
you?
Cook here as well. I'm well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm doing good also. Thanks, guys.
And
Well, he asked us, Jimmy, you had the chance to reply.
I replied too.
Joel A. Erickson joining us at the top of the hour. We talked a lot in the first hour of the show. Dayo, I just say Dayo. It's like a mental hurdle for me. It's Osterman and Dopirak. I finally got those done.
Dayo Odeyingbo.
Thank you. You got him to do it there, Eddie.
I've got my ways.
I like that. He joined us, and that is going to be available in podcast form on the website at 12:30 earlier today. Really good conversation. And one of the things I asked him about was defensively how much they can kind of learn from Anthony Richardson and trying to understand his tendencies in practices. And I know that last year it was fractured because Richardson was not out there for the vast majority of the year. But Shane Steichen has been asked a lot, it would seem, of a lot of questions about different players. But the question that we had was Shane Steichen, in having a guy like Anthony Richardson that is big, that is athletic, that is fast, and that is a weapon, but we also know, and there's precedent in this town, of the fragility that can come with a quarterback that you try to mobilize too often. Do you limit, Shane Steichen, the amount that you call running plays for Anthony Richardson?
People ask this too a lot. It's just like, hey, are you going to limit the run game? And I kind of think like, shoot, are you going to limit Steph Curry from, shooting three-pointers? Well, that's one of Anthony's strengths, right? So we're not going to, get away from that. That's what he does well. So
Now, question is, and I know that he's big and strong and durable. Is he durable? I mean, I guess big and strong, and then the durability would be the question mark, I guess I should say. But he's big and strong and athletic, and he's fast, and that is a huge part of what he does. And the guy absolutely can extend drives with his legs. But you saw what happened when he rolled out last year. And few players in this town's history have come in with more hype, more buzz, and really started to live up to it right away more so than Andrew Luck. And I know that it's kind of tired radio to constantly refer to that, but Luck is somebody that his career probably was, not even probably, his career was shortened because of the physical abuse of his body. And that's not entirely on. I know that the common cheating, looking over the paper of the person next to you, generic answer is because Ryan Grigson didn't build him an offensive line. And I'm not sitting here saying that doesn't have some merit, but Andrew Luck is also responsible to an extent for the physical toll on the body of Andrew Luck because of his running, his lowering the shoulder, his not sliding. I mean, I don't have to go through over all that. We all know it. Everybody was here. Everybody witnessed it. Everybody heard about it. But his body took a lot of abuse partially because of the way that he decided to play. And, Jimmy, that's the question mark is, are we ready to go into the arena of potentially that same kind of thing?
Look, I like the Steph Curry quote. It's fun. It makes sense. You're not going to take away a key weapon in somebody's arsenal. But I don't think anybody's asking it to be taken away. I think someone's asking it to be managed. It goes back to, if we're sticking with that Steph analogy, he's so great at creating three-point opportunities that you forget he's also really good at beating guys off the dribble with finesse moves and setting teammates up for success. They're two different games, so it's hard to take that analogy too far. But you get what I'm saying. There's other aspects to Steph Curry's game than just shooting threes, just like there's other aspects of Anthony Richardson as a quarterback than being able to run the ball. It's all about balance and managing him. It's clear that needs to happen in some capacity.
By the way, you said that the Steph Curry quote was fun. You know what else is fun? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
See, you can't.
It's
now,
just such a happy tune.
How long do you think it took him to come up with the lyrics here? They're like sitting around. They're like, we got to do a song about the San Diego Chargers. What are we going to do? I don't know. Chargers. What's the chorus going to be? I don't know. What about just simply right here?
So to get away with,
you think it's weird somebody was charged up when they came up with this theme?
I'd like to see someone pumping their chest out because they came up with the lyrics to that theme. What they'll do now, Jake, is when you see a Chargers game on, let's say, Prime or on Monday Night Football, back when they were in San Diego, they'd play the lyrics. Now, to get that same nostalgia, they just play the instrumental.
That's right.
Which is unfortunate because the lyrics are so basic that it makes it awesome.
I've got one I want to play here, too.
Don't kid yourself. The instrumental is pretty darn good, though, right? I mean, come on.
It is. 7-3 Chargers. Back after this.
Now, you have one, Eddie?
Yep.
This is fabulous. Step right up and greet the Mets. Now, my only fear in all of this is the fact that what we're going to do now is inspire, because there's nothing. There have been so many people that have tried to do these songs for the Colts, and they're all awful.
I played that just for you, Jimmy.
They're all awful.
Thank you.
How about this one here?
Oh,
let me tell you, one of the great moments of my life was the Super Bowl 34 in Atlanta. The St. Louis Rams and the Tennessee Titans, and Dave First walks into a restaurant full of Titans fans and got everybody to stand up and sing this song because it was like 2 years after they'd moved from Houston. The best.
But they stole it.
Yes, they stole
did.
it.
No, hold on just a second.
I got it.
No, Now you got the Dolphins. They stole it from Miami, right?
Well, so I didn't know the Oilers had a copycat of this. I had no idea because I was going to say the Miami one is my favorite. Has the Dolphins the greatest football team?
Yeah, this sucks. This sounds like Hanna-Barbera land. This is terrible. I mean, come on. What do they got? Droopy Dog on base here? Where's Tennessee Tuxedo? It's terrible.
Hey, Yogi.
Come on.
That's my dog.
Sorry.
The Oilers song is way better than that crap. Now, the last one to flush it out, and I know that we're up against it, but before we get to Joel A. Erickson here, you know about the Cincinnati Bengals song and the flatulent Bengal, right?
Yes.
Do you have that one, Eddie, by chance?
Oh.
If not, I've got it here. Hang on just a second. It'll take me a second to pull it up. But the thing with the Bengals song is
Cincinnati.
But the Bengal is flatulent. It's supposed to be a roar, but I think actually the Bengal had gone and taken the truck through Taco Bell. Well, go ahead and cue this up if you could. Let's see if it's still there. Yeah, see, that's rough. He's rough. Yeah, it's rough, all right.
They play it after every touchdown.
Well, which means from 77 to 91, nobody heard it.
On the board.
Isn't the king, though, and maybe I'm out of place here, but would it bear down Chicago Bears be the...
Oh, hold on. I mean, come on, right?
Don't pass our boot.
See, I went...
Tough.
The first football game I ever went to was the Bengals and Browns in 1979, and I think the final was 9-0. I saw no touchdowns. Didn't hear the song.
Bear down Chicago Bear would have to be on that list somewhere, right?
Super Bowl Shuffle, man.
Well, yeah, I know.
I mean, today
but they play that after every touchdown.
We got to play the Super Bowl Shuffle because it's Walter Payton's birthday today.
Absolutely.
Joel A. Erickson next. It's a true story. It is hard to believe that Walter Payton would be 70 years old today. Happy birthday to Sweetness Walter Payton. And Walter Payton was such a tremendous player and ambassador for the game and gentleman that even our next guest, who I would assume probably grew up in an area where the Bears were a naughty word because he's a native of Wisconsin, Joel A. Erickson, can appreciate a salute to Walter Payton. Joel joins us now on the Express Pro Tires and Auto Guest line. The beat writer of the Colts for the Indianapolis Star. Colts having their first practice, 10 o'clock this morning. It already took place. And, of course, reporting yesterday. Joel, we'll begin with this. Anything in terms of the first practice of note, either those that did or did not participate, the speed or the intensity of it, et cetera, that jumped out at you?
I think, just confirmation that the Richardson shoulder thing, that they're not worried about the Richardson shoulder thing was what I was watching foremost. And he took all the first-team reps, didn't seem to be restricted throwing. I guess in retrospect, we probably should have seen that coming, but enough years being around the sport, and I think for Colts fans being around shoulder injuries kind of makes you wonder.
How long into camp, Joel, or how far into camp do you expect this wide receiver battle between A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce to go? Do you expect this as something that's not decided until the final days of camp, going into week one? What would you say your range is of when a decision is made there?
I kind of think it's going to be like, trying to figure out how to say this. But I guess I should just say it outright. I kind of think it's going to be a little overblown because ultimately my guess is that Pierce and Mitchell are both going to play, significant roles in the offense. Maybe, Pierce played something like he played more like almost 1,100 snaps last year. You could probably split that up between the two of them, and they're both going to have their chances. I think in terms of whether or not one of those guys is a number 2 or a number 3 or all that stuff, we're not really going to know that until the games start and we see how the game plans play out, because I think those guys are going to end up playing quite a bit of football, both of them, no matter what.
So you don't think there's a real battle necessarily as much as it's just a snap count distribution?
Yeah, that's kind of the way, because what I think they're going to do is I think they're going to try to do stuff that highlights both of them. So, like, when we've talked to them before, they've said, they think of Pierce as the deep guy, Mitchell separate to the top of routes. What that looks like for, numbers going down is one thing, but I just think they're going to play more guys. Last year they really only had 3 receivers play significant snaps at all. That's not really normal for an offense. It's normally at least 4. So I kind of think both guys are going to get their chances.
Joel, we like to have in the media, and especially because we do a talk show, we like to have storylines of soap operas, right? We love soap operas. Capitol, Guiding Light, General Hospital, As the World Turns. We love soap operas. This seems to be a year showing up at camp where there's no soap opera. And that disappoints me. I like soap operas. So if I wanted to create a soap opera, I would create it by going with what storyline that perhaps right now it's just like a pilot, but eventually it might be one that takes off and becomes a narrative. It would be what?
Oof. Man.
Ryan Kelly? Am I going on a stretch if I go with Ryan Kelly?
I can't see that one turn. I can't see. He's a bad main character. I feel like his personality doesn't fit the soap opera.
I think that's fair. He's a reluctant star, right?
Yeah. You kind of have to force, like, if you're doing that, it's probably less soap opera, more like HBO personality drama. Trying to think of what the right drama would be. My first thought is, is it if one of those receivers, if we tried to make the receiver battle we just talked about that I downplayed quite a bit, is if we tried to make that into a big thing and, started talking about whether or not someone was going to keep their roster spot. I don't really see that happening. This is a team where it's hard to find that stuff, at least right now. But I think the other thing I've learned in covering Colts training camps is that they find a way of having stuff happen.
Undoubtedly. Generally. I mean, look, I guess my point being, the storyline of the Colts this year is the fact that there's no storyline.
Right.
And that's good.
Right.
I mean, that's a good thing, right? It's optimistic, but and it's a credit, I guess, to the way that they've been built, that their roster is such that you kind of feel like the time is now. The defensive backfield maybe is a little deficient, but the guy that, and he's smooth, I'll give him that, but at some point, the clock has to start ticking on Chris Ballard, no?
Yeah, but so the part that's hard for me to get my finger on there is, I think that's generally, from the outside of the building, I think we've all kind of been going, this is, at some point this has to come to a head. Inside the building, it's hard for me to tell if it's really a thing, because I think I've said this before, but you hired Shane Steichen last year. He surpasses expectations with his first season. He's in his second season now. You drafted the quarterback last year. There's a lot of evidence that if you were to get rid of the general manager, you're essentially getting rid of the head coach, whether or not it's this year or the next year, because whoever you bring in is going to want the new guy. And so there's a part of me that just wonders if you like what you've seen from Steichen and you like what's going on there, like, are you really going to make that move? Because, people are like, well, you could just have a marriage of two other guys. Well, I mean, how'd that work out for Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, who seemed like he was the most entrenched guy there could possibly be? And a year later, he's gone.
But the other side to that coin, though, Joel, is that for Ballard, they're not mutually exclusive in my mind, because you can see all that is brimming with confidence of a Shane Steichen-led offense, the play calling that's there, the execution that's there, and there's a couple of, as I said earlier, hand him your papers and, best of luck to you scenarios for Chris Ballard, which is if, maybe not this year, but this year or next year, if there's no growth from Anthony Richardson, or he can't stay healthy, or pieces that are clear weaknesses on this roster, like your secondary, like your tight end room, or strengths that he perceives are there, like trying to find that elusive pass rusher that's going to save the day. If he's still wrong on those areas, at some point, don't you have to look at and say, well, either he was wrong on the quarterback or he's right on the quarterback, but he's wrong everywhere else, and we can't afford to squander the quarterback now. Like, don't you at some point have to look around and say, well, the coach is good, the quarterback's good, but are the personnel right? Like, doesn't that have to happen at some point?
It does at some point. It's just, I mean, the Vrabel thing just really stuck out to me last year, because when they fired John Robinson in Tennessee, the whole storyline was, well, this shows that Mike Vrabel is the one running the Tennessee Titans. He's been the one who's going to be here. And a year later, he was gone. And, to me, that was just the biggest indicator that once, whatever you think of the coach, if they've been working with a general manager and you switch it, it's harder to make that switch and keep things going in a direction, even if you like the coach, than it seems.
I guess to cite another example, and this is just in my wheelhouse, but Kansas City did it 4 years into Reed. They had John Dorsey, who had largely helped them get to the next stage of the franchise's health, and then when it came time for a contract to be up, they parted ways, and they wind up going with Brett Veach, and obviously the rest is his history there. Mahomes helps a lot of that. That's not lost on me, but at some point, for all the negatives, though, there's positive examples of coaches and GMs parting ways and just having a change of scenery there, right?
Well, the other thing about that, though, is in that scenario, it's hard for me to read what the Irsay family would be thinking about Ballard, because in that scenario, that means Steichen's been in the playoffs quite a bit.
That's fair. And at this point, if they're as connected as you say they are, how would you separate playoff appearances from the coach to the GM at that point?
Because that's what all of us are saying that Ballard has to have, our playoff appearances and division titles and stuff like that. To get to the Andy Reid scenario,
sure,
you have to have those.
Yeah, and I just use that example again because it's more in my wheelhouse. It's off the top of my head because you bring up the Vrabel example. I just feel like if you think you're right on the coach and the general manager's been around for nearly a decade, at some point you are what you are at that area, right?
Generally, and I mean the other thing is bringing up if Richardson doesn't work out. I think if Richardson doesn't work out, it's a complete overhaul. I think we all knew that the day they picked him, or before that. We all knew that going into them having the fourth pick and having a quarterback was that if that one doesn't go right, it's going to be at some point it's going to be a complete change, top to bottom. This is me trying to read what's going on with that situation more than say what I think. Like I would have thought the move, if you were going to make that move, it would have happened at the end of the 2022 disaster.
Joel, I'm going to give you a challenge here. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Joel A. Erickson is our guest. He's on the Express Pro Tire and Auto Guest line. Okay. We have seen coaches that have gotten into the NFL, and in year one they are the golden child, and or early on, and then water kind of finds its level. Nick Sirianni comes to mind. Truth be told, he loses his coordinators, and now he goes from being like they were ready to put a statue of him in Philadelphia, and now it's lukewarm probably. Tell me, and here's your challenge. Give me an area where Shane Steichen, you feel that is not going to happen. Give me the body of work or the evidence that leads you to believe that Shane Steichen's trajectory will continue to uptick, but do it without using the name Anthony Richardson.
That's a pretty tall task considering he's in charge of the offense, and NFL offenses are pretty much tied to the quarterback. What I'm getting at is Shane Steichen's level. Chris Ballard, it goes without saying, but Shane Steichen's level of coaching acumen is largely dependent upon Anthony Richardson. Correct? Even though last year he got him within sniffing distance of the postseason, largely with Gardner Minshew. Yeah. So what I would say is the thing that I think you bet on with Steichen, but I would say that we don't 100% know this for sure yet. Even though you've got the Eagles as an offensive coordinator and the Herbert stuff, is that Steichen is going to find a way to score even in bad situations. Because, last year's offensive situation, no offense to the Las Vegas Raiders, but Gardner Minshew you don't want Gardner Minshew to be your starting quarterback for 14 games or however many games he started. And you don't want to not have Jonathan Taylor. And so the fact that they finished 11th in the league in scoring, to me, is an indicator of his offensive acumen. Now, I would think that that's going to help Richardson in that he's going to give him a chance to look successful, even if maybe some of the underlying stuff, or if you're watching the game, doesn't feel that way. That's how I would describe the Minshew experience. Like at the Combine, there were a lot of national people talking about how great Minshew played last year, and those of us who watched the games were going, I mean, they won, but it's not like you. I felt like last year was Steichen, kind of navigating the Minshew situation more than Minshew driving the bus. So you kind of think he can do that. Now, in terms of him being successful long term, ultimately you're going to have the quarterback at some point, or the only other alternative to that is we're talking about like Kyle Shanahan. Is Kyle Shanahan the only coach who? Trying to think of guys who have been successful, and obviously Shanahan doesn't have a Super Bowl, but outside of a partnership with a truly great quarterback. You're right about the guys who look good one year and then don't look good
right
coaching wise the next year. I mean, the Giants have had like 2 in the last 3 that are like that.
What's interesting is when you look at the quarterback and the way it's linked to the success of a coach, when McVay first got into the league, and he's working with Jared Goff, and I think Goff is a good play. We kind of wrote him off, but they were this innovative pinball machine team, and then Goff goes to Detroit, and you think this poor SOB, like his life just he went from L.A. to Detroit and whatever else, and Dan Campbell is the toast of the town, and I don't think that we give enough credit to the quarterback play that Detroit has gotten that has allowed them to put there. So that only further cements and illuminates the importance of the quarterback position for a young or a trying to be established coach, right?
Yeah, and even the flip side of it for the Rams, McVay was the hottest thing in the world. Everybody was hiring anybody who'd ever met him to be their head coach for a while, and he couldn't break through. They felt like they couldn't break through until they went and got Matthew Stafford. So
right.
As great as McVay was, they felt like they had to have a better quarterback, and that's how they won their Super Bowl. Like there's a part of the coaching. There's a part of the head coaching piece here that's tough. Like you can have you can have the great coaches, but they also, like in the NFL today, you just have to have the quarterback play. And it seems like it has to elevate you a little bit and be able to elevate your team, with the possible exception of Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers, depending on your opinion of Brock Purdy.
That narrative happened all the time with Andy Reid. It's happening right now with Mike McDaniel down in Miami. Do they need a better quarterback than Tua? But he's this great play caller, this innovative. Yeah, it's the quarterback to coach relationship that continues to be, an interesting case study around the league. Joel Erickson is our guest. He covers the Colts for the Indy Star. He joins us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. Joel, you currently have a piece up on IndyStar.com, Colts camp observations, and the headline, QB Anthony Richardson on the move right away. We've addressed Anthony Richardson already during this conversation. Another part of that article that you highlight is Jonathan Taylor impressed you today. In what ways did JT captivate you day one of camp?
He looked like the JT I remember before all the injuries started. Just the suddenness. The thing that really sticks out with him, and did even when he first got drafted, was just the way his feet move quicker than everybody else. Now, granted, there's no like clear second back to compare him to, but it's just when he runs a play and then the next running back runs a play, it just looks very different. And like going back to when he was a rookie, they were doing these foot quickness drills on the side of the field, and he would go through, and then Nyheim Hines, who's smaller and theoretically quicker, would go through, and you go, oh wow, that's different. Like the way his body moves and everything is different, and I felt like you could see it. He's kind of gotten. He's battled injuries the last year and a half, and you kind of wonder like, what's that going to take the toll? I just felt like there were a couple of runs today that I was like, that's the JT I know.
Joel, listen, I don't know. I've known you for what, 2-3 years probably? I mean, just to give the glimpse behind the curtain to people, it ain't like we're going out on a regular and drinking beers together, but we've done radio together and we've seen each other in person, and then I watched you one time have to wear, I think, a tank top and give it to Kevin, and that was uncomfortable, but it allowed us to bond, right? Isn't this right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that capacity, and because you're willing to come in here and come on the show and deal with this dog and pony show, I like to return favors by giving people little nuggets and little story ideas, right? I've been known at times to give people story ideas. Do you want a story idea? And I tipped my hand yesterday to your competitor, I guess, Stephen Holder, your former colleague, on this. And I'm going to give you a story idea here that I think is Pulitzer, possibly. I don't know. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. The breakthrough player for the Colts this year at camp, and I mentioned him yesterday, is going to be Derek Slivka. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, which only further shows just how out of nowhere this guy's going to come. He's a rookie that was an undrafted free agent. They signed him out of Ithaca College.
Yep. And
I think initially they drafted him as a receiver, yet on his Twitter account, which I became the 545th follower in Derek's social media platform, on his Twitter account, all the videos are of him running backwards. So I think he still thinks of himself as, say, a safety. But truthfully, and this is what I love about the guy, truly love about the guy, his profile picture for draft day and everything else for the NFL that's being used looks like it might be hanging at a Dollar General as a guy that passed bad checks. And and he kind of looks like he might be the character on Seinfeld that goes by Slippery Pete and is helping George get the Frogger machine out of the pizza parlor. Can you do a feature on Derek? Because when this guy blows up and suddenly becomes, a major player, and there's going to be a game this year where he comes to the rescue and makes big plays for the Colts, and people are going to say, I first heard about that on Querying Company. They were ahead of the times. But if you do an article and you're selling ink by the barrel, then I'm going to get you ahead of the curve. Can you do a feature on Derek for me?
I would say this. I would say this to you. I think I get picked on a lot out here for being the person who's looking for that guy to do that feature about 2 weeks into camp. And I will tell you this. I need to apologize to him. I did not look up his pronunciation. But this is the third time today that I have either noticed him or talked about him. The first noticing that he was still on offense, because I did check that for you. He was wearing an offensive jersey today.
Okay.
when I checked him off on my roster spot. The second being the discussion of how to pronounce his name, which I believe is it S-L-Y-W-K-A or is it I have the W and Y switch?
It's S-L-Y-W-K-A. That is correct.
Okay, so I got it right. Okay. And, we've talked on this show a lot about how I'm from Wisconsin. I am not unfamiliar with people who have lots of consonants in a row in their name.
Okay. So far, none of these necessarily equate to making an NFL roster, but they are great talking points, right?
Yeah. And now this. So I would just tell you this. He is on my radar. I do not know that he was given many opportunities to catch our eyes in the overall practice today, but it was a short practice.
Here's what you say.
Let's just put it this way. I will continue to keep an eye out for Derek Sluka. I need to ask.
Listen,
I need
Joel,
to ask somebody.
here's your headline. Your headline is this, okay? His last name lacks consonants, but he's been a constant at Colts camp. And then you just get right into it, right? And you talk about the fact that he looks like Kelly Leak. He looks like he pulls up to Grand Park maybe on not even a Harley, like a Honda motorcycle, flips out. I can see him right now. He's flipping out, not even a Marlboro, like a Kent cigarette or a Vantage, flips that bad boy off, and then just exchanges the helmet for a Colts helmet, goes out on the field. And quite frankly, this guy just kicks ass. You can tell by looking at him, right?
If he does what you just described for the start of a practice, I will write the feature that day.
I know this.
I will put down whatever else it is, and I will write the feature that day.
I've got to be the only member of the Indianapolis media that's been on the campus of Ithaca College where he went, right? So that alone, I like the guy.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah,
that's probably true. I like to say that I'm the only. I'm definitely the only Indianapolis media member who's been on the campus of Tarleton, where EJ Speed.
Yeah,
played.
that's impressive. Now is that's in? I would assume that's Tarleton, Texas, but that's near where?
It's like kind of middle.
So the end of the earth, essentially, is where that's
near.
near.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. You got it. You know what you're talking about.
It's near a Whataburger. I can tell you that, Jimmy, right?
No doubt about that. Joel, speaking of a wide receiver, though, that you did have I don't know if you'd call this a feature piece or not, but you at least wrote an individual story about him on IndyStar.com. Joel Erickson is our guest. He joins us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. My ears kind of perked up a bit when I had heard that Laquan Treadwell had been added to the training camp roster. He is a player that you highlighted all the things I loved about him at Ole Miss. He was a breathtaking talent at wide receiver and has really never been able to replicate that in the, 8 years he's been in the league since then, has been a part of either, active rosters or practice squads of 6 or 7 different teams in the last 4 seasons. Now he's here with the Colts. You mentioned it's going to be a tough spot to earn, but do you give him a percentage chance of making the roster? Is there a chance for him to be just a depth piece that's a part of this wide receiver room when the dust settles?
I think it's a pretty low percentage.
Okay.
Just barring injury, just given the wide receiver picture seems pretty set to me. Because he's not gonna take Ashton Doolin's spot. Because, and I know people don't understand this, but Ashton Doolin plays all of the special teams, and they're not going to go away from that. And then you've got I can't see them giving up on Alec Pierce. Obviously, Michael Pittman and Josh Downs are entrenched. You just drafted A.D. Mitchell in the second round. If you keep a 6th guy, it's probably another person with special team ability. I don't know if Treadwell's got that after 8 years. It's a pretty low chance. 8 years into the league, I think we kind of know what he is.
What's the allure of bringing him in then?
But I covered him. I think I covered at least one of his games in the SEC, and I remember what he was in the SEC. But
sure.
I think that's also part of it. Is Ole Miss didn't really have him run routes. He was in the freeze offense, I think.
Is the purpose of bringing him in then just due diligence / competition?
Yeah, you bring in. Well, I mean, they bring in a couple guys like this. Maybe not with the same names, but DJ Montgomery last year was a guy who ended up coming up and ended up playing a big role in one game in the Pittsburgh game in place of Pittman. And I don't think most people noticed when he was picked up last offseason. But he was also a guy who kind of bounced around the NFL. There were 3 or 4 other ones in camp. I think Vincent Smith was one of them. There's been a couple of Ballard always has a couple of these guys around, and if something happens to one of the guys that we're counting as locks on the roster, then I think that opens up the possibility for somebody like that. But right now, that wide receiver room seems pretty tough to crack to me.
Now, here's the thing. The article in the Waterloo newspaper, your colleagues in Waterloo, that covered Derek, when he signed, they said they have signed the former Ithaca College free safety. Now,
Yeah,
I think
he was.
I know.
Very interesting to me.
Listen, here's what I'm getting at, okay? Nobody thought Hannibal was going to cross the Alps on elephants, right? Ask the Carthaginians. They were stunned by this, okay? So nobody thinks this guy's coming in as a free safety because the Colts have done this whole Trojan horse deal of bringing him into the receiver room. What they're going to do is unleash him as the free safety in terms once the regular season begins, and the likes of C.J. Stroud and Will Levis and his mayonnaise, and they're going to be stunned when they're dropping back and all of a sudden the weapon is unleashed. And it's going to be hard enough for them to be able to then in the post game even say the name of the guy that just stunned them and threw them on their heels and closed gaps for them when they're trying to throw. Joel, I'm offering you the opportunity to get on this story before. I mean, this is right now just a slight sprinkle. This is a tsunami that's going to take over the league, and I'm offering it to you first. So grab the umbrella and get to work.
You're selling it very well. A free safety turned wide receiver turned back to free safety.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, with all of the other description, the hair and everything. Like I thought you, when you said it, the dollar store, the picture on the dollar store. That as somebody whose wife is from Alabama and spends a lot of time driving through that state, that example, like I knew exactly what you were talking about.
I'm telling you, Eddie.
Joel, you actually have competition because Jake's not going to tell you this. He also made this declaration to Stephen Holder.
No, I did. I let it off by saying
he
that.
alluded to it a little bit. He didn't mention Holder by name.
I know.
He did allude
so I'm
to
just saying you do have some competition to get to.
Well, that's the genius of it all, right? You're just trying to get the media corps all rallying around this story.
Let me read you the quote from our friends at the Waterloo newspaper, okay? Which is the Waterloo What's Happening is what it's called. I got a call from my agent that Indianapolis wanted me to come for a DB workout, he said. I went there, arrived on Sunday, had the workout on Monday, and had a couple of really good catches in the DB workout and performed well, and they like how I looked. I'm telling you. So
there it is.
It's been a crazy week, he said. I'm pumped about it. I just want to play football. I'm telling you. This guy.
So what you're saying is we're worried about the free safety battle between Nick Cross and Rodney Thomas, and we're missing the actual plan.
Bob Sanders awaits in the wings. He just looks like Kelly Leak. That's all I'm telling you. Matter of time, Joel. Hey, listen, you can get on board now or you can get soaking wet. You just take whichever pick you want, right? I'm offering it to you.
If you think that I will not be paying special attention in my notebook, you have not been around me enough at training camp.
This guy's my new hero. I'm just telling you. He wears number 13. Everybody thinks that means he's going to take over T.Y. Hilton's. No. It's all a ruse. I'm just telling you. Now, I also thought that, and I still maintain that Santiago de la Fuente is eventually going to win a major, and I'm going to be on it, despite the fact that he so far has been like 18 strokes from making a cut in a major. But one of the two things is going to happen. This guy's going to make a roster, or de la Fuente is going to make a major, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be Nostradamus, which I've been in the past, and I will be again. Joel, we appreciate the time as always, and I'm sure you're thrilled for that discussion.
I enjoyed it immensely. Can't wait to update you on his progress next week.
Yes, I want at least one tweet and to be tagged on it on X or Twitter or whatever it's called of updates of Dara Saliviga from Ithaca. Okay,
I think I can handle that.
All right, appreciate it.
I think I can handle that.
Joel A. Erickson of the Indy Star. Eddie is waving frantically like he's landing planes at Logan Airport because apparently we're over. Who sings this song, by the way? I don't know. Do you know, Eddie?
I do.
I don't know.
Grand Funk
I should have
Railroad.
known that.
You know who's performing tonight, by the way?
Who's performing tonight?
In the state.
Grand Funk Railroad.
That's a good guess.
This performing where?
Let me check. Let me see the venue.
While he's looking for that, somebody on X Twitter,
Oh, it's got to be. Is it Atlantis Alanis?
No.
Okay.
somebody on X Twitter
Oh, that's
Photoshop.
Saturday. That's right.
Ruoff.
Somebody on X Twitter photoshopped the inflatable duck outside of every stadium in the Big Ten, and it's delightful.
Beautiful. Hit me, Eddie. Who's at Ruoff tonight?
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, okay. That'd be a good
Nice.
show, right? They were huge, man. When I was in college, they were huge. Huge. So we have tickets to give away. Is that right, Eddie?
Yeah. Yeah, we do, Jake. For what?
The tickets that we are giving away is for what event?
Oh, it's an event. It's all right.
The Indiana State Fair, the tickets that we have to give away. Thanks for accommodating, Eddie.
You're welcome.
We have how many that we are giving away?
I think we have 4. Do we have 4?
And we're doing it at 239-1070?
317-239-1070.
Okay. So if you are on your way or want to be on your way, I should say, to the Great Indiana State Fair, which gets underway here at the outset of August. And
August
I think we
2nd
should
to
do
the
this.
18th.
We should do this race format style, which would mean the first person to have called in, which would be line 2, right?
Yeah.
Line 2, roulette style. Eddie went right with it. Line 2, you are on the air. This is who?
This is Doug Sheldon. Jake, how you doing?
Doug, I am well. How is your Thursday going? We haven't been outside yet today. How's it looking outside?
It's looking really good. The humidity's kind of up, but it's not that bad.
All right.
It's a nice day.
Doug, you're a member of the company. What line of work are you in, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm a site supervisor in security.
Okay, so you're you're one of our many directors of security here within Query & Company, I believe. Doug, you're a fan of the Indiana State Fair, is this correct?
Yes, I am.
If you were going to ride one ride at the State Fair, which is the one that you would decide to put your life in your own hands and try out?
The Scrambler.
Listen,
No hesitation.
The fact that you knew the name of the ride right out of the box shows me that you're a vet. Okay, now if you're going to get some food at the Indiana State Fair, you're getting what?
Let's see. I would get either a nice big corn on the cob.
Okay, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and then I like the funnel cakes.
Okay, also known as elephant ears. Yep. Okay, now lastly, Doug, do you have kids?
Yes, I have one.
And he or she is how old?
She is 25.
25. Okay, well then you're safe with the awkward question when you see the world's largest boar and the kids are asking why there are 2 Nerf footballs that it's laying on. If he's got his back to you, you're safe in that regard and having to come up with that answer. But the question becomes then, Doug, are you prepared to go to the Indiana State Fair, and can you corral 3 more people to go with you?
I sure can, Jake. I sure can.
Well, I got news for you, buddy. You are on your way. Eddie will get your information. You win by not only being willing to participate in the Get to Know Your Listener, but also by being the first one with the fast fingers to call in. And we had jam-packed phone lines there for a second.
I have a 2-part Taste of the Fair food question to ask you.
Okay, go ahead.
First off, there's an item called the Godfather Egg Roll. I would like to read for you what's inside the Godfather Egg Roll. And the 2-part question is it worthy of that title, and does it sound delicious?
Okay.
The Godfather Egg Roll. A 6-inch specialty egg roll stuffed with homemade spaghetti with meat sauce, ground beef, a mozzarella cheese, or mozzarella cheese brushed with Parmesan garlic butter. So again, 6-inch egg roll stuffed with homemade spaghetti meat sauce, mozzarella cheese brushed with a Parmesan garlic butter. Is it worthy of the Godfather Egg Roll title, and does it sound delicious?
Okay. In The Godfather, I guess I shouldn't say it this way because it's one of the more iconic scenes in The Godfather, as much as I hate to say it, is when he passes.
Yeah.
And I believe, is he in an orange grove or an apple field? I can't remember, but whatever fruit it is that he's picking and running around with his grandson, you got to include that, I would think.
Do you think it's going off of the movie or going off like the granddaddy of them all, like of the name?
I think it's going, well, the fact that, okay, excellent question. And I would say the latter, except for the fact that it's an Italian interior leads you to believe that it's tied to the movie, right?
Yeah.
Now,
I say yes on both
I can't
counts.
imagine it would be better than this. So Emily Longnecker of Zippo fame.
Yes, familiar.
Emily Longnecker, as I mentioned, from Bradford, Pennsylvania. And Emily Longnecker is of Italian heritage and just made stuffed shells and homemade meatballs with tomato sauce for Shannon and I last week, and it was absolutely spectacular. And her stuffed shells sound a little bit like the Godfather egg roll.
Okay.
But now, is that available at the Indiana State Fair?
It is available at the Indiana State Fair.
That does sound pretty good, does it not?
At J&J, a taste of home catering and food truck.
How different is that, you think, from a Hot Pocket?
I would assume it's not going to scold you out of the gate. I would hope not. It's cut open, so I would assume there's no danger of burning.
You don't have to put it inside of a small metallic sleeve.
From the middle. Eat from the middle.
Now, what else? Are you looking at the food? Because that does sound good. I will say that sounds really good, right?
An obscure one on here, peanut butter and jelly chicken wings.
Yeah, negative.
Crispy chicken wings tossed in a creamy peanut butter sauce and topped with a sweet jelly drizzle.
Yeah, negative. That's trying too hard, right?
A little bit.
What else?
A grilled cheese slammer, a grilled cheese sandwich filled with barbecue pork, mac and cheese, and fried pickles served on Texas toast with a side order of tater tots.
No, negative.
Gravy and taters, a delicious deep-fried tater topped with our savory sausage, gravy, and bacon.
Yeah, that's called poutine. They sell it in Canada. I mean, gravy on French fries is poutine. That's a Canadian delicacy.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch funnel cake, our famous funnel cake topped with cinnamon and sugar, followed by Cinnamon Toast Crunch, then drizzled with vanilla icing.
That doesn't sound awful, right?
I'd eat that.
By the way, you realize that we're about 3 minutes away from Eddie asking the two of us if we're familiar with the Godfather's egg roll, right? Okay, give me another one.
Barbecue tachos, tater tots, pulled pork, cheese sauce, jalapenos, sour cream, barbecue sauce. What more could you want?
That doesn't sound awful. Another one?
The Godfather egg roll.
Thank you, Eddie. Right on cue. I'm not aware of that, Eddie. What exactly does that entail?
This is on the list, so I'll...
So are these? Here's the thing: are these just the vendors that, the basically the food truck vendors that have probably multiple? They go to multiple state fairs. So are these just? Does the state fair say these are the delicacies we want, or do they just go out and they're looking for the food truck vendors that have the most original recipes?
I think it's a mix because some of this is from like the Indiana Beef and Cattle Association or the American Dairy Association or the Indiana Pork Producers, and then you have the National or the North American Midway Entertainment Center. So like I think it's a mix. You have some local companies like Sun King being involved here. Like there's local brands.
Yeah, the Sun King pickled beer.
Yes, saw that on that list as well. Jake, they have your go-to, the Melty Mess grilled cheese. Are you a lover of the perfect cheese combination? So are we.
We.
When we are at the Dairy Bar, which my understanding is we are going to be there on August the 8th.
Nice.
I will bring back for you, Eddie, the best one there. Just the simple. Sometimes simple's best. Just a simple grilled cheese Swiss on wheat. I mean, voila.
Agreed.
The Melty Mess has Havarti cheddar and Munster cheeses on a sourdough bread.
Now, they do have I don't know if they have them this year or not, but the chocolate mint milkshakes are awesome, too.
The strawberry is my personal favorite.
That's a good one.
It's Haley's favorite. She's told me I have to figure out a way to transport said milkshake to Carmel, Indiana without it fully degrading, and I don't know how to do that.
You get a cooler.
Think so?
Put some ice in that puppy.
Yeah.
Just in this.
Bang.
Make sure the cup is sealed and secured.
Yeah, you're good to go.
All right.
You'll be fine.
All right.
It's not that far a drive, right?
No, not too bad. 25 minutes, 30 minutes.
One of the things I've always wanted to do at the State Fair, and we did this when I was doing the morning show with Terry Stacy.
Man on the street interviews, you just go up and start asking people questions.
Let me tell you something. We got into some trouble with that when I did it at the Brickyard 400 and asked a 12-year-old kid why he was rooting for Clint Boyer. And live on the radio, he said, and I said, "Oh, Clint Boyer, are you from the same area?" And he said, "No, actually, I think he was 13." And I said, "Well, why do you like Clint Boyer?" They were camping in the Coke lot, he and his dad. We thought it'd be fun to wake people up in their tents and interview them. And I said, "Well, why are you rooting for Clint Boyer?" And he said, "Well, he's sponsored by Jack Daniels. First time Daddy and I got drunk together, that's what we was drinking." I said, "Well, okay." But he didn't use the term drunk. He used he dropped the blank. They were blanked up, and he used the granddaddy of them all live on the radio. And I thought, well, okay,
nice.
So we came back to the studio and did the rest of the show.
Jerk chicken nachos, Crispy chips topped with Jamaican jerk chicken, flavorful jerk sauce, sweet peppers, and melted cheese.
What are you wanting to do, though, Jake?
Sorry, I just was throwing out more food items.
I don't know the price on this, but every year I've wanted to do this, and it probably is a little late in the game now because you'd have to come up with a plan on what you're going to do with it. But every year I've always, and maybe this is like frowned upon, I don't even know. I've always wanted to come up with the funds to go to the state fair market, if you will, and bid on and win one of the show pigs.
Okay.
And do like the Thanksgiving turkey pardon thing.
Nice.
Where we are buying the pig just so that he can go live in a farm and hang out and have a good, long, normal life.
That's pretty cool.
But then you got to find a farmer that takes him, and you also got to trust that he's actually. I have no idea what the actual life expectancy of a pig is, right?
Steve, thanks again for taking George in. By the way, this BLT is great.
Exactly, right? Like he has you over for dinner a week later, and you're like, well, what's going on? Jimmy, you have plays of the day, right?
We do have some plays of the day.
All right, we'll do it next.
Days of the day, all focus on baseball. A lot of pick'ems tonight in the MLB. We'll play along starting first pitch at 3:07. We'll take the Toronto Blue Jays to win outright on the money line over the Tampa Bay Rays. About an hour after that, it's the Dodgers and the Giants again. We'll back LA to win on the money line outright over San Francisco. Last one for you, 7:10 first pitch tonight. We'll take the Atlanta Braves to win outright over the New York Mets. Eddie, any plays for you?
I will be taking under 5.5 hits for Corbin Burns today.
Those are your plays.
How'd it go for the Red Sox yesterday, Jimmy?
The Red Sox got absolutely wrecked.
Colorado missed an extra point, right? Isn't that right?
Yes, 20-7.
Yeah. They went for two late.
It was like the third time, I think, in franchise history they had scored that many runs.
Is Colorado the most obscure franchise in Major League Baseball?
They're in the running.
Probably.
They're in the running.
When I took Mrs. Kinnear's cotillion class, when I would have been I can tell you, this would have been in the 7th grade, I got in trouble during cotillion class because they busted me for sneaking in a Sony Walkman because I wanted to listen to the American League Championship Series, Game 2, I think it was, it was the first appearance in the ALCS for the Toronto Blue Jays. Who were they playing? Jimmy Cook, your guess?
The New York Yankees.
Eddie Garrison, your guess?
Boston Red Sox.
Excellent guess for both of them, although the Red Sox were still at that time amidst their their years of futility.
Oh, wait, can I go through one more? Are we wrong?
You were both wrong.
Can I have one more guess?
They lost to – they were the favored team. They had home field advantage at Exhibition Park, which is right where the IndyCar Series now goes through at Exhibition Place. And they lost to the eventual World Series champion.
The Minnesota Twins?
Excellent guess. Eddie, you got a second guess?
No.
Thank you. The Kansas City Royals.
I
was a Blue Jays fan, I've told you before, because when I was a kid, you would send away cards to baseball players to try to get them to sign them.
Right.
And you have to send a self-addressed stamped envelope.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me that an American stamp would not work in Canada. So when we had family friends that visited Canada, I asked them to bring back a roll of Canadian stamps, and so thus I sent a self-addressed stamped envelope that had a Canadian stamp on it that the players could actually send back.
That's cool.
And the Blue Jays, 90% of the roster sent me my cards back. So I had signed cards from all these Blue Jays players, and they had good players.
That's really neat.
George Bell, Tony Fernandez, Jesse Barfield, Lloyd Mosby. That was a good team. That 85, by the way, and they lost to the Royals. The Royals in the 85 series took on St. Louis. That was the famous George Orta play with Dan Dinkinger at first base, and then it went to Game 7, and the Royals defeated the Cardinals 11-0 in Game 7. Darryl Motley had 2 home runs. I have no idea how I remember all that.
I don't know if they still – that is impressive, by the way. I don't know if they still do this in middle school, given the fact that who writes letters anymore, but that was part of the curriculum of learning how to write letters was they would give you the list of all the teams to mail stuff to.
Yeah.
And so you'd be like, hey, I'm Jimmy Cook.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
And sometimes it sends up back, sometimes
we
they
had to
wouldn't.
do state reports with that where we had to write – each of us got a state. We had to write to the state and ask for information. Mm-hmm. Same thing.
Yeah.
By the way, I know that it wasn't impressive enough that I knew that little rattle of the 85 series. What if I told you that in Game 6, on the play that I'm talking about with George Orta, that allowed then for Dane Orge to get a base hit, which scored Onyx Concepcion and Jim Sundberg, and so the Royals defeated the Cardinals 4-3 in Game 6, and that's why they came back and won in Game 7. I have no idea. Now, I had to take algebra 7 times, and I it's hard for me to remember, like this year, who the Pacers played in their respective playoff series. But not unlike in Stand By Me when he says, I never had friends like I had when I was 12. It's hard to have sports memories like you had when you were 12.
Well,
right?
you purge a lot of different things, but clearly that type of historic baseball knowledge did not leave.
It just sticks with you.
Yep.
J&B has walked into the studio.
What are we
He's got
purging?
his
What purged?
lemonade and his coffee. Sports memories. What do you got on the
When
big
do we
show
start
today,
using
John?
the word purged?
When did you say?
Yeah. It hasn't been very long. As I know there was a bunch of films about purge, but
it's usually I think of purge being puking, but that's okay.
When do we start using narrative? When do all the nerds out there start using narrative?
I
all the
use
dorks.
narrative a lot.
All the narrative.
I also use narrative a lot.
Yeah. What's your narrative today on your show?
I don't even know. I'll have to find out. I hate that word.
Narrative?
I hate that, and I hate the Mount Rushmore of.
Well, yeah.
I hate that.
I'm with
That's
you
like
on
a
that
Mike
one.
Greenberg special, and everything's about the
Well,
Jets.
not to mention, I saw the other day somebody sent out a thing that said, what 5 players are the Mount Rushmore of blank? And I'm like, do we need to talk about how many are on Mount Rushmore? You can't have, what 5 are your Mount Rushmore? Are they adding
Why
one?
can't it be another peak somewhere?
Right. Who's your Mount McKinley?
Who's your Pikes Peak?
Which is now Denali. Mount McKinley's been renamed, so it's Denali. Who's your rename?
Who's your Mount Pilot of? Yes, why not? What'd you guys do today?
We had Dayo on at 12:30. We had Joel Erickson at 2.
Was he a good guy, Dayo?
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
He was good. And he played along well with the show theme because I asked his favorite movie, and he said Shawshank Redemption.
Well done. Hey, I'm going to see Red Hot Chili Peppers tonight. I've never seen them before, which is kind of odd.
What's their signature hit?
Probably Give It Away from Blood Sugar
Yeah, that's
Sex
hard to argue
Magic,
that. Yeah.
right? My favorite
Under the
song
Bridge?
is Suck My Kiss.
Yeah, that's a good song.
I like the remake of Higher Ground, too.
Californication's a good song.
Yeah, I hate Scar Tissue, all that Soul to Squeeze crap.
And they were,
from the
do you remember,
Coneheads.
John, like when they first broke through, before 92, when they really,
Yep.
they were kind of, before that, they were almost like an underground punk band. Not
They
punk,
were.
but
They
like
were
an underground
tube
band,
socks
right?
over their fingers.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And then wasn't Flea in, what was the movie he was in?
Bath.
Point Break. Was he in that? So Kiedis was in that. Flea wasn't in Point Break, but
Hold on.
Kiedis was, right?
What was the one with the, oh man, this is going to
Kiedis
drive
was
me
in
crazy.
early episodes of Happy Days, I believe, right, as a guest star.
Was he?
I think so.
What was the movie? This is going to drive me nuts. Hot chick was in it, and there was an abduction and like a candy bar, and he was the camera guy on the TV crew that was filming all of it. Flea was.
Tootsie?
This is going to drive me nuts.
Peaches?
Somebody will text me the answer eventually, right? Peaches.
Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Jake, was a part of the 44 days that maybe have been the most impactful in music of all time. 44 days of the end of the summer, 1991.
Okay, those albums. You ready?
Yeah.
10.
Correct.
Nevermind.
Yes.
Use Your Illusion.
Correct. I think that's part of it. Yes. Metallica.
Okay.
Black.
Was there a Stone Temple Pilots in there?
Bad Motor Finger, Soundgarden. Bad Motor Finger is a badass album. People tend to forget about it. The late, great Chris Cornell, who arguably had the best voice of all time, and I'm also big time on Lane Staley, too, having that. Just incredible 44 days.
I'm going to come up with that movie title, and when you're starting your show,
It's
I'm
not
going to yell it
Tootsie?
out to you. Huh?
Is it not Tootsie?
It's not Tootsie. No. Can you imagine Tootsie today? Good Lord.
Oh, we can't watch that.
That's
the
right.
Far left or the far right, far something or other. Dustin Hoffman. You know what he is like? Dustin Hoffman and Marathon Man. That's
By the
my
way, your
favorite.
impersonation right there sounded like the top-rated national sports
No,
midday
I'm
show
sure it does.
in America,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's as much BS as that is. So, yeah.
John's up next. We'll be back with you at noon tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Aquarium Company.